Steven, what's going on, my man?
What is happening?
Oh, a whole hell of a lot. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Just Your Opinion, man. And we like to keep this a goofy show and have fun and talk about sports and whatnot. And unfortunately, we got to start this off with some extremely sad news. And it doesn't get any easier for the Las Vegas Raiders this season.
Is this because they released Nathan Peterman?
We'll get to that in a little bit. You mean John Gruden's favorite player?
He's gone.
Yeah, he's gone. And I think I know why, but we'll talk about that a little later. Let's just focus on what happened today. Very sad news, and there's bigger life and bigger things than football. But this morning, very early in the morning, you could say late at night, I think it was 3 a.m. around that time in Las Vegas, Henry Ruggs was driving and he was intoxicated and he has killed someone while driving his car. He has been charged with DUI. And the Raiders are coming off their bye. They've had to deal with the whole mess of John Gruden. They've been playing well, and unfortunately now they have to deal with this. The bigger thing, obviously, is someone lost their life. So, Stephen, I leave it to you, sir, and I'll chime in a little bit. But your thoughts on what went on today, this morning with Henry Ruggs?
Well, I mean, shock.
Yeah.
I don't really. I was thinking about this really ever since it happened. And I knew we were going to be doing this podcast. I've been wondering how to word it. And I mean, what more is there to say really than what's given to you right there? I mean, it's just sad, and sad for the person involved, and sad for the fact that Henry Ruggs decided on a Monday morning heading into a Tuesday that he was going to go out the night before and decide to drive his car at the time. And just all the circumstances. I mean, everything is it's just all sad. And then seeing this guy who's 22 years old, it's kind of hard really to find sympathy for him, knowing there's a victim involved in this entire thing. And I do feel bad for him, and the fact that, his NFL career probably over. I don't think it's coming back. I don't think he's coming back. And we still have yet to see what else is going to happen. But I mean, it's just really sad, man. That's all I could say about it, especially with the way that he's been coming on this season. And it seems like he was starting to find his identity and starting to become a leader of the team. And now, especially with everything that's happened with John Gruden too, these past few weeks, I mean, you go from losing your head coach, going 2-0 without that head coach, thinking you're maybe turning a new page, and now all of a sudden the guy who's helping turn that new page is just no longer going to be there anymore. So I just overall, man, I don't really know any other word to describe it, but besides sad. What was your reaction when you saw everything?
Well, you texted me this morning talking about the rumors that were going around on Twitter, and my initial reaction was, why do people have to spread rumors if they don't know if it's real or not? And it turned out to be very real, and TMZ had the report, and it's just sad. Someone lost their life, and that just bothers me that, innocent lives, you think that you could drive at any moment. We all say, like, I'm going to jump in the car, and you never know if, like, you're ever going to come back or not. Just you never know what other people are doing on the road, and it's just terrible. As far as Henry Ruggs, I do feel sad for him in that he didn't mean to kill anybody, but it was just a dumb decision. And his career may be over before it even really began. He shined last season. Obviously, the miracle touchdown against the Jets is where he came on. This season, he's making huge plays, probably their best deep threat they've had in a long time. And his Raider career, I don't know about his NFL career, but his Raider career may be over. I don't see him playing another down this season, and it just sucks. And the Raiders have had to deal with so much crap, whether it was Mark Bedane resigning in the offseason. They have a lot of financial issues. John Gruden, obviously, and now one of their best players that are making them, a 5-2 team is probably not going to be there going forward. So I try to think of other comparisons to this. People reminded me today of Dante Stallworth. He was involved in a manslaughter. He killed somebody driving a car, and he was I don't know what his alcohol level was, but he was impaired, and he served, I want to say, 30 days in jail. That's it. And he was suspended a full season and then returned to play for Washington or maybe the Browns, whatever it was. I don't know. We're living in a new day and age. That happened in 2013. And obviously, at the
Laws
end of
are
the
different
day,
everywhere.
yeah, laws are different everywhere. And Henry Ruggs killed somebody, and it's just sad. It's terribly sad. I've seen anywhere where he could get 2 to 20 years in prison for this. So I don't really know what to make of it. Obviously, football takes a backseat to when death is involved, but it's just terrible. It's terrible on so many accounts.
Well, football does take a backseat until a couple of hours later, and you
Yeah.
realize that after the news breaks that there is a trade deadline and business has to be done. And the Raiders, they didn't decide to do any business. They didn't make any trades. Well, I mean, it's not just the Raiders. Nobody made any trades. My God,
Yeah.
what a boring trade deadline day. Like what I saw the tweet of every trade. It's like there's 4 of them that happened in total or something like that. I was like,
yeah.
There's nothing going on with this, but and I do wonder, just with athletes, teams, all of these guys who, just as much as they have the ability to buy these nice cars or have these luxuries, why don't they, figure out a way to have the luxury of getting a driver, especially if you're going to be playing in Vegas? I mean, I know I'm not necessarily going to blame being in the city of Vegas for this, because I think temptation is everywhere. I mean, maybe more so in Vegas, but I don't really subscribe to that whole thing about how, well, if the Raiders didn't have a team in Vegas, blah blah blah. I'm like, no, if you're an athlete and you're making 6 figures, 7 figures, you'll find a way to entertain yourself. So I don't really subscribe to that one, but it's just, I don't know how they don't set themselves up with getting transportation. I don't know. It's everything is just so backwards about this. And that's also the thing you mentioned earlier, but it's not like he woke up that day. It's not like he woke up on Monday and said, hey, yeah, I'm going to go out with my friends and I'm going to get drunk or whatever it is and impair myself from driving and then accidentally kill somebody. Like, that's not what he planned to do, but the decision making just was not good on his part. And I think it's just a lesson to really everybody. It's just, if you go out, figure out a way to get yourself a ride, because even though it may seem like a lot of money, could save you, could save someone else. It's brutal, man. It's just brutal.
Yeah, as I've gotten older, and you have mutual friends that have been down that road with DUIs and whatnot. You just learn, it's not a big deal just to call a cab or Lyft or Uber these days, and that's why I miss BART. People shit on in the Bay Area, but if you're drinking and you need to get home, that's the best thing to do. So I just feel bad, obviously, for the person that lost their lives the most. I feel bad for Henry Ruggs. I don't know what the future will hold for him. As far as the Raiders, if we're going to talk about football and what this means now.
Yeah.
The offense.
I think enough time has passed now where that initial shock is kind of wore off, and you realize, okay, this is going to happen to that specific individual. And you also know that he got away. I don't know if he got away unscathed. I was seeing a bunch of different stuff about injuries, but when you look at those pictures, man, you just wonder, like, how does anybody even walk away from that sort of thing? And unfortunately, someone didn't.
Yeah, well, he's lucky to be alive himself. Anytime you drive impaired and you have an accident, you're lucky to be alive.
Yes.
But as far as the Raiders, they're 5-2, and everyone else in the division is not playing their best football right now. The Chargers laid an egg 2 weeks in a row, not including the bye week, but that was a bad loss to the Patriots. The Broncos trade away their best player in Von Miller, and the Chiefs still look like crap, despite the fact that you thought last week that this would be the turnaround game for them. They won the game, but it was, they had
I didn't think it was going to go that way.
No, I know. They had to claw and fight their way for that 20-17 win over the 2-win Giants. So the Raiders lead the division, and I don't know where this offense goes from here. They have, they still have pieces, obviously. They still have Derek Carr. They still have Josh Jacobs and Darren Waller, but those guys are banged up. And I don't know. And we saw the Nathan Peterman news. I don't know if you can react that quickly. The news came out this morning that this happened with Henry Ruggs. I don't know right away. Keep like, what big play wide receiver we could trade for now? It's just the timing of it is just terrible.
I saw a couple of people.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I know.
Wait for 10 seconds
before people demanding that they make a move
before you tweet something out. Just think about it a little bit, and also think about the situation. We know that there's football that has to be in the business, but you're not a part of the business. No. Mike Mayock is a part of the business. That's who has to think about it. It's just everyone slow down a little bit on that. Oh wow, Ruggs is gone. We got to figure out a way to trade for this guy. Like, come on.
Yeah, the Raiders weren't trading for Odell Beckham today to replace Henry Ruggs. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Now I do think that with Nathan Peterman cut, they are making roster moves and making space, and a name that's out there, and I'm surprised he was cut by the Rams because Tutu Atwell has an injury, a shoulder injury that's going to have him miss most of the season, the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And Deshaun Jackson is not on the Rams anymore. He was not traded at the deadline. He's a free agent. He has to pass through waivers, and anybody that has a worse record than the Raiders could pick him up. However, if he passes waivers, he's clear to sign with the Raiders, and I think that's a slam dunk move, in my opinion.
Yeah, that'd be the only person that you can get if you want to, quote unquote, replace Ruggs, because he's the speed threat. He's the guy that could possibly go deep. And I don't care. It seems like Deshaun Jackson, by the time he's 60, he'll still be running go routes past everybody, no matter how young the cornerback is, even if it's a 22, 23-year-old quarterback, just because that's how ageless it seems that Deshaun Jackson is.
Still zigzagging to get in the end zone.
when he's healthy.
Yeah.
When he's healthy. Yeah, serpentine! But I'm looking at free agents, though, next year, and one name who I'm not even talking about the Raiders. I'm just talking about one name I'm surprised that hasn't been moved is Allen Robinson. I thought this dude was going to be gone from the Bears. Everyone was speculating that he was going to be the number one guy. And I don't know, maybe the offers weren't there. Maybe the offers were too expensive and the Bears just didn't like it. But as far as the future for the Raiders, I don't know what's going to happen this season if they do sign Deshaun Jackson. But it looks like the top three guys who are going to be free agents next year are Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, and Devontae Adams. And I wouldn't be surprised if, knowing how this has gone for Derek Carr. I mean, Derek Carr has lost his next door neighbor.
He hasn't lost him as a neighbor. Like I said a couple weeks ago, he could still hang out with him.
That's true.
I just don't know why. I just don't know if Derek Carr wants to be seen hanging out with John Gruden right now.
He could still go to he could still go over to John's, and maybe they can catch up on the latest Masked Singer. I don't know, whatever they do. I bet you they have fun with that.
I think John Gruden's watching the Masked Singer.
I guarantee you he is.
I think he's more of the Avatar singer kind of guy.
Yeah, the Avatar.
Yeah.
Who's under that, man?
Who they doing that? All right. Spend the whole day doing John Gruden impressions.
Yeah, but then also though, like Derek Carr just lost this guy Henry Ruggs, who he felt like he was creating that quarterback wide receiver one connection with, the one that Russell Wilson has with Tyler Lockett, or Joe Burrow has with Jamar Chase, or Patrick Mahomes has with Tyreek Hill, like different connections like that. That really Derek. I don't know if Derek's really had that. I mean, I guess he did with Amari, if you want to count one.
There were times where, though, I thought that he was more comfortable with Crabtree over Amari. Right. Because Amari was so young and still figuring things out and wasn't getting a separation as much as Crabtree.
He'd go invisible. He'd have an 100-yard game, and then the next game it'd be like one reception for 4 yards on 3 targets, and you'd wonder what the hell's going on.
We don't need to go back down memory lane or bad memory lane with all the Amari Cooper stuff, Steven.
And then,
but yes, I agree with you.
I mean, he was great in that game on Sunday night in the fourth quarter to help the Cowboys
with Cooper Rush.
With Cooper Rush, but Devontae Adams, getting to this whole point about why I brought up Derek Carr. I mean, I feel like they're gonna offer him as much money as possible to bring Derek Carr's old
Yeah.
buddy, old Bulldog buddy from Fresno State, Devontae Adams.
But do you think at this point in Devontae Adams' career, he wants to go play for Derek Carr, who he hasn't played with since college, as opposed to the quarterback he's played with his whole career, and Aaron Rodgers?
Well, if Aaron Rodgers is still there, then maybe.
Well, that's all contingent on where Aaron Rodgers wants to play next season, and that's a conversation for another day. But I mean, yeah, they're going to have to look in the offseason and see what happens there. But let's talk about this trade deadline for a second, Steven. And it was all hyped up with the Von Miller news, and that came out of nowhere. Even though I thought, like, in the offseason, like, I didn't know if Von Miller was going to come back to the Broncos, and he did. I thought eventually the Rams would, like, add a player like a J.J. Watt or a Von Miller, and they do it at the trade deadline when they just completely just kick the ass of the Houston Texans. And you can make the case that they don't even need Von Miller, but when you live in L.A. and teams are willing to give you players, isn't it crazy that every L.A. team just gets who they want? Whether it's the Dodgers with Max Scherzer or Trey Turner, the Lakers, they go get Russell Westbrook and all the old guys that they want for some reason. And then the Rams, they get handed Von Miller when the Broncos are just like, yeah, we're going to pay his salary too, so you guys have fun this season.
In a league with a hard cap.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I go back to when John Gruden said, well, this, and we keep bringing up John Gruden, but he said, yeah, I know. But he said this, though, when they traded away Khalil Mack, there's a hard cap in this league, man. You can't have a quarterback making $100 million and a defensive end doing that. The Rams clearly don't give a fuck about that. As Matthew Stafford makes that amount of money, Jared Goff made that amount of money, and Aaron Donald sure as shit makes that amount of money. So I don't know how the hell they get away with it. Like it's crazy, but
it's a fascinating case study. It really is. In a team that's trying to win now, throw all their chips in the table in a time when I guess in the NBA maybe draft picks are a little more valuable just because there's only 2 rounds.
So?
Nah, maybe not. I'm just thinking of the Oklahoma City Thunder just stockpiling.
Yeah, how many draft picks do the Oklahoma City Thunder have that they don't like?
More than the Rams have in the next 20 years, and they have 7 rounds to choose from.
In basketball, it just feels like, oh yeah, you can take 10 first-round picks from us, and we'll call it even.
Yeah, exactly. They don't make any sense, but I don't get how. I don't know how they're gonna survive as far as depth. I mean, Aaron Donald, Robert Woods. Matthew Stafford is only under contract till 2023. I don't know what they're going to plan to do there. What are they going to take a quarterback in the draft? Are they just going to keep on relying on Matthew Stafford by the time I don't even know what age he's going to be by the time 2023 rolls around. Probably like 35. Is that
no? He's 33 right now. I want to say.
Yeah. Okay, so in 33 right now, he's going to turn 34 in February. So 2022, and then he'll be 35 by the time he's a free agent next year.
But does it mean anything if they win the Super Bowl this year? They did what they needed to do.
If they win the Super Bowl, then it's all good. like that's really where they're at.
And we're seeing it lately in the NFL. I was a big, you kind of do things in the draft. You can make all the free agency moves you want, but in the end, I don't think that's really going to help you. The Buccaneers in their first year with Tom Brady and all the guys they added, they won. Eagles a couple years ago, they obviously drafted Carson Wentz, but they made some big splashy moves with getting like Alshon Jeffrey and Chris Long, guys like that. They won the Super Bowl. So we're seeing it more and more in the NFL that free agency moves help teams. And I was kind of surprised today. And you know what? Actually, I should take that back. I wasn't surprised today. I was duped. I was duped by all the insiders because, Steven, we were made to believe that this day was going to be huge with all the trades. And for a week now, a goddamn week, everyone has been hyping up Deshaun Watson's going to get traded. We all know Deshaun Watson's going to get traded. And it totally has fucked over the Miami Dolphins organization. Tua's even acknowledged it in press conferences where he's saying, I don't not feel wanted, whatever double negative the hell he said.
Yeah.
Brian Flores has to answer for it. They could have just squashed this whole thing and said, we're not trading for Deshaun Watson at this moment. And then let it linger. It's a great song, too, by the Cranberries. Do you have to let it linger? And now,
do you have to
trade for Watson? And they didn't. And in the end, they don't. And it's just ridiculous. And I feel like this is all just a thing for the insiders to just put out more tweets and clicks and likes for all of us to be like, oh God, Fletcher Cox is on the trading block. And all these people and the Packers are going to trade for Evan Ingram. And in the end, it doesn't happen. It reminds me of a great quote from The Naked Gun 2.5, The Smell of Fear. It's a great movie, Steven. And in the movie, Leslie Nielsen says, we've got a long road ahead of us. It's like having sex. It's a painstaking and arduous task that seems to go on and on forever. And just when you think things are going your way, nothing happens. That is the NFL trade deadline.
Why are you getting mad at insiders, though?
Because they're just...
What sport do these NFL insiders work for?
What sport? Football?
Yeah. What league?
The NFL.
Yeah. So they're trying to push people toward their trade deadline to make people think it's going to be exciting when probably nothing is going to happen. They have to do that every year. What do you think their job is?
Okay, I'm just so over it, though. With Adam Schefter taking the league by hostage in the offseason this year, be like, Aaron Rodgers is going to get traded, and then doing the same shit with Deshaun Watson. And now he's like, his tweet today is like, to be continued. So he just has a grasp over the NFL until he leaves to go work on the Vegas thing that he's going to work on. Did you hear about that? He's going to work for Caesar's Palace or some shit.
Who is?
Sporting. There's some rumor that Adam Schefter's going to leave ESPN and go work for Caesar's as some insider, but...
Well, I mean, he could. I mean, it's weird, man. These insiders have kind of really, it's taken a turn on them lately with all the stuff that's been released and with Adam Schefter and then all the stuff with Woj, where Woj has just like a total stranglehold on everything at ESPN when it comes to inside information. It's very fascinating that I think people are starting to turn on them a little bit.
Even Jeff Passan a little bit, where it's just like, I like all these guys, and I think they do an incredible job, but I think it's the companies they work for, mainly ESPN, where they are forced to tweet out nonsense all the time to have us just constantly be on our toes and be like checking our phone and be like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Case in point, Jeff Passan over the summer, Matt Scherzer traded to the Padres. We all think it's going to happen, and as far as we know, it was done because he tweeted it out. He was used as leverage in the end, so the Dodgers could get a better deal with Max Scherzer. And it's just bullshit. So I just fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, won't get fooled again, as George Bush said. But yeah, it's just ridiculous.
It was a very disappointing trade deadline. It was very disappointing. Let me pull them up. Let me pull up the trades here that actually happened because I had them.
There were 4.
Yes,
Melvin Ingram got traded to the Chiefs from the Steelers. The Canadian doctor with the Chiefs got traded to the Jets.
Yes. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif.
There you go.
Charles Omenihu to the 49ers.
Yep.
And then
that's about it, right?
Von Miller to the Rams.
Von Miller, obviously. And then, a couple weeks ago, Stephon Gilmore and CJ Henderson. But not a whole lot. And I would have thought the Saints would have made a move today having Jameis Winston tear his ACL. I don't know what's going on with Taysom Hill. I guess he has a concussion. I don't know if Sean Payton wants to rework his entire offense to have Taysom Hill play quarterback, but that's what he did last season, and he's very capable of doing that. But I just thought it was interesting with a lot of good backup quarterbacks available. Mitch Trubisky, Marcus Mariota. These aren't great guys, but guys you could trade for and bring them in. Hell, you could even convince the Broncos, can we get Teddy Bridgewater? Because he used to play for us.
Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting that they didn't make a move. They're going to roll with Taysom Hill and Trevor Siemian going forward. If Deshaun Watson was available, which ridiculous in the first place. There's no fan base in America right now that's going to stand for him. We got to see what happens in the offseason. Apparently, the only contact the Dolphins had with Deshaun Watson was last night. And in the end, they were both like, yeah, it's probably not best for us to do business right now. So they want him. It's obvious. And it seems like Tua was going to leave. But the only team that made sense actually to trade for Deshaun Watson, if it's guaranteed that he is not going to be suspended this season, was probably the Saints. But I don't know how you make that move work.
I don't know how. I've completely gone off Deshaun Watson. I've gone off that entire thing. I don't even want to focus on the fact that the NFL is just full of immorality and still keeping this guy employed. And this guy's still seeing his name. I don't want to see his name. I don't care where he goes anymore. Like, I've had it with that guy. I'm so over Deshaun Watson and all of the talk. Like, I don't care. And hey, Dolphins, you made the wrong pick with Tua Tagovailoa in the first place. He's not that good.
What you call him?
Tua Tagovailoa.
Vailoa.
isn't it Tunga Vailoa?
No, it's Tua Tagovailoa.
Tua Tagovailoa. My bad. But either way,
Get it right, Steven. Good Lord, you sound like the guy giving out the Heisman to him.
My bad. I sound like Roger Goodell. My bad. But I don't know. I haven't even looked at anything with Deshaun Watson. But
it's not going to happen until he's found innocent. If he's found innocent.
Who are these? So who are the scariest teams right now in the NFL? What? I mean, I guess the Rams are right up there.
I think it's the Rams hands down.
Nobody really wants to give Green Bay any credit, even though they've just done nothing but win ever since that dud against the Saints.
Can we talk about that real quick? Because that was a fantastic game. It was hyped up, and it was the difference in our picks last week. Between the three of us, and I said three of us, you, me, and our spooky guest last week, Elena Matzorkis, she kicked our ass by one game, but she beat us. Because of the Green Bay game, she picked Green Bay. What did she go? I got the scores here. Hold on. Elena went 9-6, and you and I went 8-7. We had to do the old tiebreaker last night with the Monday night game, and I won. So, Steven, are you going to eat a wing for us today?
No, I'm not going to eat.
Of course you're not.
I'm tired of buying the singular wing. There's no need to get an individual wing anymore, especially because nowhere sells individual wings. And me, I'm trying to watch my figure. All right. And I've been spending $10 every week just to buy these good old fashioned wings, Atomic Hot Wings that I don't even like. And I'm not going to lie to you. I bought some original hot on the side just so I have something to enjoy. And I've been munching on them afterwards with a bunch of ranch. But you know what? I'm kind of getting used to the Atomic Wings now, so I'm good.
Oh, you built a palate.
I have. And
you're like Sean Evans.
And with you don't even struggle when you're eating hot wings. You have like a mouth of...
Oh, hold on, buddy. You don't see me the next day. I struggle.
Okay, I don't want to see that. But on the camera, when it matters most, when we're live streaming, you do not struggle. You just eat them like it's normal, and then you have a little trouble talking. It's not very entertaining. So...
What are you, the critics?
Yeah, I'm the YouTube comments for this show. So I got two different.
Less Niner talk, more Raider talk. What is this shit?
The reason why.
Oh, do you have the Last Dab? What is that?
So I got one version. I either got this Last Dab Apollo.
Oh yeah, Showtime at the Apollo, baby.
So do you want this one? This one's a little more liquidy, a little less thick. Which
well, you got to keep it thick.
Which might not be apt for this. Or we got the other one.
Oh, look at you shaking it up.
You're supposed to. That's what they do. And I also got the other Last Dab, which is Triple X.
Ooh.
Which is a little thicker.
Kind of looks like Grey Poupon a little bit.
It's actually it tastes okay. Both of these taste okay. But
so what's your plan here? So you're skipping the wing and you're gonna put it on what?
A Cheez-It.
I love Cheez-Its.
I know, I do too, and I'm about to
ruin a good Cheez-It like that?
That's all I got. I don't have any tortilla chips. I don't have anything to put these on, but I'd rather not get
What flavor Cheez-It? What flavor Cheez-It?
Extra
Toasties?
Extra toasty, yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, the football on it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know, they sell them with they got like Tabasco flavor now. I don't like that at all.
Oh, I love that.
Really?
I love the hot and spicy one. So let's read the descriptions here and tell me which one. This is for the Apollo. This is for the Apollo.
Showtime at the Apollo.
The Last Dab. Heat level 10 out of 10, by the way.
Okay.
Apollo is the world's only hot sauce made with the Apollo pepper, the new hottest pepper from Guinness World Record holding chili breeder Smokin' Ed Curry. The Apollo pepper channels the sun's energy to bring new levels of flavor and heat to the world of super hots. Live the hot ones tradition. So,
hold on. How many Scovilles is it?
I don't know. They don't have the amount of Scovilles. Have you ever watched the show before? They have the Scoville unit for every other sauce except for like the Last Dab when they get.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I actually haven't kept up with that show in a while.
It's been pretty good. I forgot who they had last time.
They're still zooming.
No, they're not. They're in the same room now. They're just they got two tables separating them instead of going after one. He had Meg Thee Stallion on, who was actually really funny. Did she
go far? Because I could see her probably putting down some wings.
She went the entire way. Yeah. She went on to promote that new hottie sauce at Popeyes.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that last week, yeah.
So that was this one. So basically, I'd be eating the sun. And this one is the hottest sauce on Hot Ones, cranks the spice levels even higher with this special XXX rated version of the Last Dab. 3 distinct strains of Smokin' Ed Curry's most infamous chili, Pepper X, Chocolate Pepper X, and Peach Pepper X, combined to smoke out celebrity guests and fans alike. Add a dab to your favorite foods and live the Hot Ones tradition. So which one would you like me to add a dab of? The XXX or the Apollo?
I love Showtime at the Apollo, but I love XXX more, the Vin Diesel movie. So I'm going to go with that one.
Wow. Good movie choice.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Fine.
Better than The Return of Xander Cage, which I haven't seen, though.
The Return of Xander Cage.
Which the Return of Xander... And you're going to use a Cheez-It to put this on.
Yes. I'll use 2. Just to...
So you didn't want to drive to Wingstop and say, hey, 1 wing, please?
I did not. I was tired of it. I'm very annoyed with it, actually, as a matter of fact. Because I'd be having to wake up early from my nap and all that. You
got to get the nap in.
Okay.
Here we go. Steven's dabbing it up. Let's get a nice glob on there.
Dude, it's how can you see?
Yeah, I can see. It's thick as I do the play-by-play here. It starts to drip drop on the Cheez-It as Steven freezes a little bit.
Dude, that's a lot. Like, I've eaten this before.
It's your funeral, dude.
It's a lot.
Put it in your mouth. Let's go.
Oh, shit. This is...
It's going to sting. How do you feel?
Oh, it's so much worse.
Stings the nostrils?
Oh, my God.
Don't touch your eyes. What are you doing?
I'm joking. Oh. I haven't had that in a while.
You all good? Do you have water or anything?
I have water. I don't want water.
Yeah, water activates it.
Yeah.
All right, I'll talk. I'll talk while you're surviving.
So, Packers Cardinals. Your thoughts?
Okay. So before we get to that game, that was the difference in our picks. And Elena Manzorkas beat us last week because she picked that game. So I feel like we got to do something for that since she beat us at our own game. And I'll figure out what we're gonna do. Maybe we have to eat wings for her or something.
Did we both pick the Cardinals?
We both picked the Cardinals, and that game was crazy. What the hell is AJ Green doing on that play? Jesus Christ!
Yeah, it was the AJ Green. It was the Thursday nighter, of course.
Every word is painted. Look, you're painting like a dog.
Yeah, man.
All right, I'll talk for you. What the hell is AJ Green doing on that play? Jesus Christ. Do you think it was a run play with no timeouts left and like 14 seconds left of the game?
Was there any explanation after?
No. It's like the Zapruder film. I want to know what the hell happened. In the end, Cliff Kingsbury was just like super cool about it. I was like, yeah, Kyler, he was looking for AJ Green on the play. Couldn't find him. That's my Cliff.
Nice. And that all happened because the Packers couldn't run the ball.
It was a crazy sequence where they were stopped on 4th and goal on the 1-yard line after a touchdown was called back for Aaron Jones. Then the Cardinals flip field. At the most, they're going to get a field goal and send to overtime. Not the case. A little pick to Rasul Douglas. So the Packers
Raiders
go to the top.
legend.
Oh, yeah, Rasul Douglas, with the Raiders. Packers go to the top of the conference now as the Cardinals get their first loss. So Elena beat us with that pick. But she also joined us last week, and she beat us despite picking the Houston Texans. I went back and listened to it a couple of times, and I tried to find where she said, no, I'm joking. I'm not taking the Texans. She took the Texans and still kicked our ass. So props to Elena.
That's so sad on our part.
Yes, it is very sad on our part. But what's more sad is, so last week Elena joined us. Actually, I shouldn't say this is sad. This is pretty awesome. It's a fantastic story. So Elena joins us last week as we attempt to do costumes, and she actually did a costume.
Dude.
What'd you say?
It doesn't end.
Look like a 5-year-old staring at the table. What does it stop? Is this ever end?
I put it
Touch
right
your
on
eyes.
the
What the hell are
thumb,
you doing?
dude. I put it. It's fine. I didn't touch any sauce. Keep going. Sorry.
Okay. So let me tell this story. Hopefully, laughter cures the hotness in your mouth. So Alana joined us last week. She was in costume. We attempted to do costumes, but she had the best costume by far. She was Awesome-O from South Park. And she had the full getup. She got the box head, the box body, and she went to her party on Saturday night. And she texted me, thinking that she texts me and you. She's at the Halloween party she went to, dressed in as Awesome-O. She's been drinking a little bit. She's got the box head on, and she can't see very well while she's texting. And she thinks she's texting you and me.
Oh, no.
You are in her phone as Stephen Langford.
Uh-oh.
Also in her phone is Earl Stevens.
Oh, no.
And if you know who Earl Stevens is, that's E40.
No.
On Saturday night, I get a text in a group text from Elena between me, her, and E40 with her dressed as Awesome-O.
Did he respond?
No, he didn't respond. Come on, E40, you didn't like the costume?
Oh, that's unfortunate.
I know. It was a fantastic story, though.
So
yeah, so Saturday night, I'm like, the hell is this? To me and E40 from Elena? What the hell is this about?
Yeah. I'm very nervous about that. Because,
sending text to the wrong person.
Working in radio, you acquire, a phone number here or there just to hit somebody up because people are nice enough to actually give you their phone number, which was a surprising thing to me.
Not everybody.
Not everybody, but, some people. And I've been really hoping that I would never make that mistake. But do you think like when E40 gets a text alert, it's ooh?
Sorry, is that's the sound his phone makes?
Yeah, his phone. Like anytime he gets a text, he goes ooh. And then like when somebody like texts multiple texts in a row, when they send the small text and they send like 4 or 5 in a row, it's like ooh, 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 ooh.
That would be amazing. I thought that was his reaction to seeing a text from somebody he doesn't like. It's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
And then when he likes it, he's like, yee.
Yeah. Oh, good Lord. Oh. Speaking of, shout out to Dirty Dip, man. Go to dirtydip.com if you want to get any apparel. Dirty Dip.
The hell's Dirty Dip?
It's my friend's apparel company. Check it out.
You plugging your own shit now here?
Yeah, man. I mean, hey,
tell us about the Dirty Dip.
Look, they got all different.
I'm Dirty Dip.
They got all different kinds of stuff. They got hats. They got stickers. They got everything. They got.
Do they have dip?
No dip.
They should get dip.
They should get dip. I agree.
It might be dirty though.
Oh, plugging my own stuff. Oh.
All right. Before we have our special guest, Michael Urban, joining us at 4:00. He was supposed to join us a couple weeks ago. And he's going to join us to talk about a lot of stuff going on in baseball. We've got the World Series going on tonight, and I'll talk about this a little later. But Bob Melvin going to the Padres, and we all thought it was Bruce Bochy. Remember last week I brought this up, and you were right where you said a lot of GMs said there was no fucking way that Bruce Bochy was going to take that job.
One former coach.
Okay.
In an article, in the Athletic article that kind of went through the timeline of everything going on with the Padres.
I mean, it makes sense because Bruce Bochy wants to be a hands-on manager. And who's their GM? AJ Preller?
Yes, correct.
He's the guy that wants to control things. And Bob Melvin is a great manager, but he does do what, Billy Beane tells him. So makes sense. And when we got the news, it was right before the Thursday night game against the Cardinals and Packers. I was not surprised. I was surprised by the team. But then it makes sense. It makes perfect sense because I thought Bruce Bochy was going to take that job. I thought that Bob Melvin was going to go join Sandy Alderson with the New York Mets. But Bob Melvin's a Bay Area guy. He's a California guy. I think his family lives in Arizona or Colorado or something, but it just makes sense for him to be on the West Coast. The Padres are a great team. I don't know what the hell is going on with the A's. They could be totally just selling as they always do, but selling even more as they prepare for Vegas. So it's just sad.
I got to tell you, man, he's going to be going from something completely different. Like these two teams, he hasn't had to deal with this his entire time with the A's. And what I mean by, well, actually, you know what? Scratch that. He has, because he actually goes back, 11 years? So you think back to 2010. I mean, what is the biggest locker room dysfunction that he's had to deal with like Billy Butler and Danny Valencia getting into a fist fight in the locker room? Like, is that the most
country breakfast? Big country
guy.
breakfast.
Not a great guy. No. But Bob Melvin, though, he's going from a team with the A's who it appear, at least this season, or these past couple of seasons, with Olsen and Chapman and Simeon when he was on the team, and every one of those guys that they've had. Oh, dude, it's still in the roof of my mouth.
Is it really still lingering?
It's really intense. Like, here's the thing. I don't know if I'm ever going to get rid of this, because you can only do a dab and it'll get you. It'll act like you've eaten like 6 of those atomic wings all at once. So I don't know if these are ever going to go away. But he's going from a team where all these guys were selfless. They played together. It didn't seem like a lot of them are, chasing the big money or any of that stuff. It really was a team. And some of that has to do with Bob Melvin. And maybe that's why the Padres hired him, because they think that he can bring that cohesiveness. And, we'll ask Michael Urban about that. Maybe that has something to do with it. But I don't know how he's going to handle all the personalities that they got over there in San Diego. As Fernando Tatis continues to become the face of baseball and mold his way into that, Manny Machado making the big money, but those two don't seem to get along.
Yeah.
Eric Hosmer, I don't know what's going on with Eric Hosmer with the Padres. That starting 5, if they could stay healthy, they'll be really good. But man, he's going from the yin and yang type of teams right now. A team that's kind of overachieved when they don't have really any high paid players, as opposed to the Padres, who have underachieved when a lot of them are very highly paid.
And there will be expectations because he's a great manager and they should be a playoff team. But as far as the A's go, it's just a sign of what's up.
How great is he, though?
Bob, I think people say that because he's a nice guy. He's a really nice guy. And everybody in the Bay Area that worked with the A's loves him because he's just a nice guy. He'll do interviews, whether you're Bertie Brazil or Chris Townsend. He always makes time for those guys. So
he's one of the nicest, like, humans
salt of the earth.
He's like one of the nicest humans I've ever seen in sports. However,
yes,
he has become the winningest coach in A's history, which is really
hard. Tony La Russa.
Really hard to do, right?
Yeah.
Especially with all the legendary coaches that they've had. However, his playoff record with them, not great.
But whose playoff record with the A's is great?
It's a good point. But overall, he's 7.
Besides Tony La Russa and who's the dude that managed the Yankees back in the day in the 70s? Used to get fired by the Yankees all the time.
Billy Martin. And but look, man, after all, 7-13 in the playoffs, and when you have it with, I know that his front office didn't do him any favors. I mean, good Lord, Bob.
It's not really him making those calls, though.
It's not him making those calls at all. But the past couple of seasons, bringing in, Liam Hendricks as the opener in the wild card game, bringing in Sean Manaea in the wild card game.
He's the scapegoat because that's not his call.
You don't think so?
No, it's Billy.
You think Billy really made that call?
It's Billy. Come on. It's all these GMs, whether it's Farhan or Billy. It's the GMs making the calls in baseball. We'll ask Michael Urban about it, but that's what I think.
I disagree with that.
Fine, Dan. Disagree with me.
I think there's a lot of communication, but I think we overblow that a lot.
Okay, we'll talk about it, but yeah, it's a sign of things to come for the A's, unfortunately. And but I do have one suggestion for who could be the manager of the A's. Former player.
Showalter.
God, no. Ugh.
I think I know where you're going, and I think this is what every A's fan wants.
Say it. Go ahead.
Does his name rhyme with Schmoshington?
No.
Oh, you don't want Ron Washington?
No, I don't. I mean, I love Wash, but I think he had his time as a manager, and it's time to let that go. He's doing a fine job with the Braves. There's another guy on the Braves, I think, that could manage the A's.
Who's that?
I vote for Stephen Vogt.
Oh, God.
What's so bad about that? Why do you roll your eyes?
You really want Stephen Vogt as your manager?
I think he'd be a good leader. I think guys in the clubhouse respect him. He said he always wanted to be a manager. I could see Stephen Vogt being a great manager for the Oakland A's.
Okay, but Bob Melvin has, and this is why I don't really buy your whole bullpen thing. Bob Melvin has tried to mix the old school with that analytics stuff, right? And he's been a proponent of that. And the opener is, analytics is involved. Like, sometimes these guys just don't hit as well with the opener, the closer who's opening the game, blah, blah, blah. But he also made it a feel thing. If Stephen Vogt comes in and he's your manager, now all those moves are definitely going to be made from the top. Like, I'll be led to believe that if Stephen Vogt's your manager.
Same thing if Ron Washington were his name manager. Whoever it's going to be is just a yes man to Billy.
Interesting.
And honestly, like, well, we're not going to win. It's going to be the same shit when Gruden, another Gruden reference, when Gruden came for the last 2 seasons in Oakland. It's just going to be retooling the team until it's bye-bye time.
Yeah, what do you think? Because I think the move had a big part to do with this in Melvin's transition. I think he knew his time was up, but if the team wasn't moving, I know he likes the area.
Yeah.
Then maybe he would have been more inclined to, maybe have him stay. But it seems like this has been going on ever since like spring training or something like that. So even before the season started,
he saw the writing on the wall. He's a Bay Area guy. Went to Cal. He doesn't want to go to Vegas.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
Yeah, if Vegas is going to be their spot,
I think it is.
How much longer can A's fans root for the team? Like, seriously, like,
fans
who are fans of teams from Oakland, they have been tested, man.
Yeah, dude, and everyone's failed the test. It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, Bob Melvin even talked about it in his, excuse me while I get choked up about this, Bob Melvin left, in his introductory press conference with the San Diego Padres. He talked about the fan attendance at Padres games. And you can make weird, people are going to joke like, oh, you never had that with the A's. Of course he didn't. And you're going to see it even more and more now. You thought the attendance was bad in years past? Wait till this season. Just wait till this season. It's going to be bad.
If they just keep charging $40 to get seats in the second deck so you can watch the A's versus the Mariners.
It's not even that, man. It's just the disrespect. It's just the flirting with the other cities. It's just you had a hard time getting fans to the ballpark to begin with. Now you're going to have more seagulls than ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like seagulls.
Yeah.
Interesting birds. But I don't want them at baseball games.
You like seagulls?
No, I don't. I'm just trying to be funny there.
What kind of birds do you like? Do you like any birds?
I like Larry Bird. What birds do I like? I don't know.
Man. Top 5 birds.
I don't go bird watching.
Top 5 birds. Go.
Pelicans.
Okay.
Quail.
I'm putting the quail up there. I like the pelican. I like the quail.
Do you hunt quail?
I don't.
Wedding Crashers.
I don't go hunting.
I don't even know how to fucking hunt a quail.
Big fan of the falcon. I love a good falcon. Those things are menaces. Mainly a red tail. I like the red tail falcons.
Okay.
Another bird, because you already took mine with the pelican. I like that one.
You like crows?
No, I don't like crows. Crows creep me out.
Especially our former boss.
I like
his name was Jeremiah Crow.
That's an old school reference right there. I like
old school. Makes it sound like it was 20 years ago. It was like 5 years ago.
Feels like it was 20 years ago, to be honest.
Yeah, it was a lifetime ago.
I can't think of any more birds.
You got 3? Boy, you were ready to do like a top 10 list of what's your favorite birds from 1985.
I like a good eagle. Eagles are sick. And then a condor. We'll go with a condor.
What about Ravens? If we're just saying team names.
I like the Ravens. Yeah.
The football team or the bird?
The bird.
Okay.
And Simone.
Raven Simone? Real quick before we get our guest on here, Michael Urban going to join us at 4:00. Niners, they get it done, man, with Jimmy G. And I'm going to say it, man. This is a Jimmy G team going forward for years to come. This is the team's quarterback, and Niner fans just got to get with it. Just got to get with it. Jimmy G is your guy. You wasted all those draft picks for Trey Lance? This guy ran for 2 rushing touchdowns. How many does Trey Lance have? Just 1. Niner fans, you got your quarterback. And his name, Jim Garoppolo, who turns 30 today. So give him a birthday present and let him be your starting quarterback.
So I'm guessing you don't think he's good.
No. I like to go against what everybody else is doing. When Jimmy Garoppolo got traded to the 49ers, my initial reaction was, fuck this guy. This guy's going to ruin the Bay Area. Now, fast forward to where everybody hates him. I'm like, yeah, come on, guys. Jimmy's the guy.
Dude, you know what's interesting? It's really been fascinating seeing the reaction to that game. Because even I fell to this. Like, this is how I was on Monday morning. Check out my show, 5 to 6, pregame show on 95.7 The Game if you'd like. But this is how I was.
It's called Dirty Dip with Steven.
But my initial reaction was, Jimmy played a good game. Like, darn, he looked good.
His best of the season.
Yeah, but that's not saying much. Because when you take a step back, and you realize that the dude wasn't pressured. He had all the time in the world. He had the type of game that any franchise quarterback, any starting quarterback should have with that kind of time. He's still throwing off his back foot. He's still doing all of that. There were a bunch of wide receiver drops that hurt him. They had the one pass for 50 yards, but that's like the best throw he's ever made as a 49er quarterback. I don't know. It's just, it feels like we were going all crazy for it. And then you take a step back and you realize, well, wait a second. He didn't throw a touchdown. He was pretty accurate with the football, but his one big play was with Deebo Samuel and the screen pass that went 83 yards. And then that let him run the ball in. And a play which, quite frankly, looked really weird, where Deebo Samuel was motioning. It looked like they wanted to do a jet sweep, and then he just stops in his tracks, and somehow they're able to snap the ball. And I don't think what he's done in the past, at least this game, can wash away what he's done in the past. Like, he did not look good against the Colts in the rain. In this one, I went back and watched it, at least his throws. And I thought, yeah, he looked good. He looked okay. It wasn't something amazing, though. And really, 49er fans, I know they're expecting playoffs this year, but if that guy's going to be your starting quarterback, I don't think he will be for long, because all it takes is one bad game before everybody turns on him again, because that's just how it goes.
Most likely, as they face the Arizona Cardinals, they're coming off their first loss of the season, and we'll see, how
possibly
Jimmy plays.
McCoy-led Cardinals.
Nah, Kylie's going to play that game.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting. I don't know. Maybe
but if it's Colt McCoy, I mean, better chances for the Niners. Let me just give you my overview of the game right away. First opening drive, first drive, they threw deep. They threw deep to Ayuk, and they didn't score on that drive, but it just looked the most comfortable that Kyle Shanahan and Jimmy Garoppolo have looked this entire season. From the play calling to whatever they could do in the offense. I know people are laughing and saying, when Jimmy Garoppolo is quarterback for the 49ers, that's when we can open up the offense. And honestly, that's the truth right now, with Trey Lance being so limited. Other things I just noticed, Elijah Mitchell, he's the guy in the backfield. I know he got banged up in that game, but he's your starting running back going forward. Don't see Mostert coming back with the team. They'll figure something out with Trey Sermon. I don't think he's, very well liked by Shanahan right now. He's figured things out.
He's not built for the Shanahan system. And
probably not.
By that, I mean, just beat out guys on the edge, go outside the tackles, and use your speed once they get you blocking at the line of scrimmage, then onto the second level. Like, Elijah Mitchell was not good up the middle. I think he had like 8 carries for 13 yards or something like that. Up the middle. Everything was on the outside. I like Elijah Mitchell, though. I think he's a good back. I think he's strong.
No, he's good, and it's obvious Deebo is the playmaker on that team. Just 2 things before we get to our guests that are very clear. While Justin Fields is a fantastic athlete, and he had an amazing touchdown run,
I
don't think you're looking at that game and thinking, wow, the Niners made a big mistake not drafting him, or even thinking of even having him in the conversation, because he was never in the conversation. It was always going to be whether it was going to be Trey Lance or Mac Jones or who's the third guy. It was just those two.
Trey Lance, Justin Fields, and Mac Jones, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
That was pretty much it. But yeah. I don't think Justin Fields was even in consideration. And the second thing is just that while Jimmy Garoppolo is, he's not going to win you a Super Bowl. I understand that. He still can bring a lot to this team. I know he's not the quarterback going forward, but I just thought he had a good outing. We'll see how long he keeps a starting job for, but I thought it was fitting that he won that game, his first game ever as a starting quarterback for the Niners. He beat the Bears in Chicago. He's from Chicago. So I thought it was fitting, and I thought it's a good week for all the Niner fans to get off the back of Shanahan and Jimmy for a week.
Yeah, and you know what? They're still in it. There still are, and that's really the positive that you can look
we'll
at.
See.
And the NFL season's just so weird, man. You never know what can happen there. Like,
speaking of weird,
speaking of the obvious.
Speaking of weird, as I try to transition here, we got our guest. Should we give him a 30-second breather to get ready?
We'll give him a 30-second breather because I like running this countdown thing.
We got to think of a different tune for it, though.
It feels very professional, but here we go. We're gonna run the countdown, and then we'll get Mr. Michael Urban on.
All right. Joining us now is this guy used to cover the A's back in the day, used to cover the San Francisco Giants for NBC pre and post. Used to have a little show called Inside the Bigs on 95.7 The Game. You could follow him at Twitter, Big Herb Sports. It's not Michael Irvin, and it's not Urban Meyer. It's Michael Urban, everybody. What's going on, Herbs?
Yo, man, you put me in the show. I was really enjoying being backstage and just listening to you guys. I hadn't heard you guys together. You sound great, man. Thanks for having me.
You're too kind. As you get an email.
Wow. You know what's crazy is I was one of the first guys to transition over to the internet, leaving newspapers during the .com boom. So since 1999, I think, I've been working on the internet, and I'm still completely internet and technology illiterate. I'm just the fact that I'm here with you is a huge step in my favor. I'm very proud of it. Doesn't take much, but I'm just glad to be here, man. It's great to see your guys' faces.
Oh, thank you, Herbs. Thank you for making time for us today. We appreciate it.
Anytime.
So let's get to it, man. You followed the A's back in the day. You covered them, I should say, and a lot of changes are happening. Just your thoughts. Bob Melvin, him leaving the Oakland A's to go to the San Diego Padres. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a tough blow for A's fans for sure. And A's fans have been taking kidney punches for a long time. And Bob leaving, when I first read that he had been there for 10 years, I was actually kind of surprised. It seemed like it went so fast, but I was really blessed when I covered the A's. Not only was the clubhouse great, there was always 24 great guys in that clubhouse. And I think they had an unspoken rule. Can I swear on this?
Yeah, go for it.
There had to be one asshole on the team every year. You can't have 25 great guys. So, like, David Justice was the designated asshole one year. Mark Redmond was, like, the biggest asshole I've ever met. Dude, I swear Mark Redmond, man. He was pitching one day. I know this is way off what you asked me, but let's roll with it.
No, go for it, man.
He was pitching. Bobby Crosby was the shortstop at the time. And Redmond got the double play ground ball that he needed to get out of the inning. But Bobby bobbled the exchange. And so they didn't get out of the inning. And Mark Redmond turns around. This is the first game I ever took my 2 daughters to, right? We're sitting in the stands, and I see it happening, and I know what an a-hole Redmond is, and I'm thinking, okay, how's he going to react to this? He turns around to Crosby and puts his arms up in the air. It was a sold-out crowd. The A's never get sell-out crowds. It's a huge game. And he shows up Bobby Crosby on the field. It was crazy. The next couple of days in the locker room, it was pretty clear he wasn't going to be around very long, and he wasn't. I don't know if you guys have read my book, but I go after Redmond pretty good. I don't go after athletes hardly ever. But when they deserve it, I do. And Mark Redmond was just a prick, man.
Who was the dude that used to bring up every show on Inside the Bigs? Used to say his name over and over and over again.
Derek Barton.
Yes. You say you don't go after guys, but you definitely went after that dude too.
That was all in fun because I know. A's fans couldn't stand Derek Barton, so that was just a few more kidney punches. But
Poking the bear.
Derek Barton did provide one of the inadvertent highlights of my career, just seeing stuff that's going on. The first day he got called up to the big leagues, remember, he got traded. Mark Mulder got traded for him. Yeah. So the word was from the A's, and the A's have always done a much better job of hyping their prospects than the Giants for whatever reason. So the big thing was Derek Barton's the best hitter in minor league baseball, and we just got him. He's going to be a star. And so it was kind of a veteran clubhouse, and they're kind of sick of hearing it. And I knew once Barton walked into the room, he was, going to take some S.
Just say it, Herbs. It's all good.
Herbs. It's all good, man.
All right. You knew he was going to take some shit, right? The veterans don't. The veterans do not like cocky. And, I mean, that's the same in any sport. That's the same in any business, right? You have a newcomer in, like, all right, let's see what this dude's about. Derek Barton decided to introduce himself to his new teammates at Safeco Field in Seattle. In the clubhouse, he walks in. It's raining. He walks in wearing shades with white rims.
Oh, boy.
Like, anybody who wears shades with white rims who isn't from South Florida should be killed. I get it. South Florida, meth addicts, that's for you. Anyone else, that's not for you.
Oh, man. So speaking of those types of teams, though, it seems like, the A's in these past 10 years or whatever it's been since Bob Melvin's tenure, they've had a bunch of those guys who aren't a-holes. They're all pretty selfless. I mean, you had I was just telling Derek about this, but I think it was Billy Butler and Danny Valencia or something like that. Who had it out
over shoes, man.
Yeah.
Was it over shoes?
Oh, how long was he around for? Like 2 weeks?
Something like that.
Yeah, and,
but I want to say it was stupid. Like they're fighting over like cleats or something.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, I actually like the guy, but his job is not to be liked by reporters or anyone. It's to be productive and get stuff done in the clubhouse. But again, that's a great pull, man. I hadn't heard that word in a long time. Didn't they pay him? They paid him ridiculous money, didn't they?
I think they paid him I thought it was like a 3-year, $30 million deal or something like
that.
Yeah, a year. Yeah, if I remember correctly.
Billy Butler? I don't remember that.
He's definitely right. I think nice guy's definitely right. They paid him big money, and I think it was right about.
It was 3 years, $30 million. I remember that.
They gave Ben Sheets $10 million for 1 year.
Oh my god!
And that was, I mean, you guys know how the A's operate.
Yeah,
when they pay a lot to get somebody, it's an eye opener, and you're wondering, okay, what's up with that? Can you guys think of somebody that the A's paid like top dollar to that actually worked out for them?
No.
I mean, when they were at their best, when I was covering them, they would get guys like, I mean, Frank Thomas is a great example. It was another, like, people who read Moneyball, they want to say, oh, this is, it doesn't translate to the real world. He got lucky a couple times, and meaning Billy. people that don't understand that Moneyball was a business book with baseball as the backdrop. And if you paid attention to it, it wasn't all about on-base percentage and the things that got hyped up in that book. It was about exploiting weaknesses in the market. And Billy is very, very good at that. And one of the weaknesses in the market at the time was, hey, guys who are, injury history and it's got a little age on them. Billy figured out you could go get those guys. You don't have to pay top dollar. The guys that were just looking for a way to get kind of back into the spotlight. And then the big hurt comes. He should have won MVP that year, as far as I'm concerned. But they brought in, a few other veterans during my time there, and they were all really good moves. Again, Moneyball isn't just about on-base percentage. It's about exploiting market weaknesses. And Billy is the best in baseball at it. People valued on-base percentage forever. And right. Billy's the first to admit that. He's like, I didn't invent a wheel here, but he did invent a wheel in terms of exploiting those markets. And I'm sorry that I know I didn't answer your question about Bob Melvin. Like I was starting to say, I was super blessed to cover the 3 managers I covered. Actually 4. Forgot Bob Guerin. So did everyone else. So I had Art Howe when I first started, and then I got Ken Maka, and I didn't really cover Bob on a regular basis. I covered Guerin on a regular basis, and then Bob replaced him. Art, Ken, and Bob are 3 of the greatest men I've ever met. Yeah, just good dudes. And you look at all 3 of those guys, their records in Oakland, phenomenal. All 3 of them were great managers. Art House should have never been jacked the way he was. Maka got fired and brought back like a day later. It was bizarre. Covering that was a trip. You never had any drama with Bob, though. And that's why I appreciate him so much, because he's almost like cut from the same cloth as Art Howe. One of Art's strengths was letting the clubhouse police itself, unless it got out of hand. And then Art would walk into the clubhouse, and because he had been letting them police the clubhouse, when he walked in, it was like, oh my God, Dad's here. We better clean it up. Because Art just didn't walk into the clubhouse very often. He walked in when there was a problem, when he was pissed, and he didn't even need to say anything. One time, I was actually in the clubhouse when he did it. He walked down the hall, stood at the entrance where everyone could see him, hands on hips, and it's like, you ever gotten that look from your dad or your mom, just disappointment? And like, boom.
I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's the worst. And he didn't even have to say the words. Hands on hips, for one thing, is like a sign of, oftentimes it's a sign that you're struggling, but other times it's signs that you're pissed. And they knew that Art was pissed when he was pissed. Maka was the same way. Like I said, I didn't cover Bob on a regular basis, but Bob's mom, huge fan of Inside the Bigs, by the way. I don't know if you guys know this, but that's how I got close to Bob, because I had him on the show a couple of times.
Yeah.
And he knew, this is back when I was an administrator in nursing homes, just doing media part-time. She called me and said, hey, I've got, my boyfriend or common law husband or something. He needs a long-term facility, like the one I run. And the one I ran, and the way I ran it, it was not, and this sucks to say, but it's all about money. And they didn't have a lot of money. They had Medi-Cal, which pays minimum. Medicare pays maximum. And so I was kind of instructed not to let in any of the Medi-Cal patients. Well, Bob's mom's boyfriend, or whatever he was a Medi-Cal guy. Out of respect for Bob, I went to my bosses. I explained the thing, and I said, I'd like to accept them. And so I did. And he was there for quite some time before he passed away. And over that time, I got close to his mom, and I got even closer to Bob, and got to, realize that, first off, you talk to anybody's mom, you kind of get a feel for why the offspring is the way they are.
Right.
Parents have a huge influence. And Bob Melvin he's got such unassailable character and such integrity, and he's honest in everything. I can't say enough about the man, and I'm really, really happy for him that he's going to San Diego. Not that the A's never had a chance to win, but they didn't. We know that. The Padres got a chance to do some things, and Bob Melvin deserves a ring for everything he's done in the game. I hope he gets one.
And one, yeah, I got the question, Derek. One thing?
Go ahead and cut me off.
One thing I think that his parents have definitely taught him, one trait, is patience. Because I know Billy Beane was the start of Moneyball, but also those trades that were being made ever since Bob Melvin was there were just, everyone could admit it, unanimously terrible. Like, everyone could admit that. I mean, are you surprised that Bob Melvin lasted 11 years with the A's? I mean, after 5 years, wouldn't you have just said, all right, look, you guys traded away my entire all-star team. I'm gone. Bye-bye. Uh-oh. Did we lose him?
Herbs, you there?
You got me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. I'm sorry, Steven. I didn't hear the tail end of what you said.
Yeah, were you just surprised that he was there for as long as he was?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Maka, by year 3, he was done with it. And I remember the only time they got past the first round, you remember this? They beat Minnesota in a series.
Yep.
Yes.
2006.
Yeah, and that was without Huddy and Mulder. It was after they had been traded. And I remember that was kind of the beginning of the end, which is crazy because he's the only manager that got them, to the ALCS. But he had been instructed, and, I haven't verified this, but Ken's very honest. Billy had told him, I don't want Kotze in the starting lineup tonight. And this was at the Metrodome. And Ken was pissed, man. He talked about it the whole pregame. He had written a lineup without Kotze. And about 20 minutes before the game, I'm sitting with him in the dugout, and he stands up and he goes, fuck it. He actually said those words. He changed the lineup. He put Mark Kotze in the lineup where he belonged. And what did Mark Kotze do? You guys remember the game?
I don't.
Inside the park home run at the Metrodome.
Nice. Oh, no, yeah. Okay, yeah. It's come back.
Frank Thomas took Johan Santana deep.
Yep.
And Barry Zito pitched one of the games of his life in the oh my God, worst stadium other than Tampa Bay. And once Zito won that game, you're like, wow, this is different, because the Twins had knocked the A's out, and there's a little bit of a rivalry building. And Johan Santana, I don't know if you guys remember that year, he was unbelievable.
Yes.
I mean, he still has the best changeup I have ever seen. And he was dominant at home. He was undefeated at home. And the A's beat him. And they beat him in large part because Ken Maka said, fuck it, I'm starting Mark Kotze. And it worked out great for him until he got fired.
So to that point, Herbs, you said that Bob Melvin's a great guy. Do you think he's going to be a hands-on manager with the Padres? And I asked that because before you hopped on, me and Steven were debating about some of the moves that Bob Melvin made in the past. And I was defending Bob by saying, that's not Bob's decision to make. That's Billy. And as you brought up with Ken Maka, Billy makes a lot of those decisions. So I want to ask you, since you've been covering baseball, and it's changed today a little bit, managers were more hands-on with the decisions made day in, day out, with the exception of A's managers because they were dealing with Billy. Do you think a lot of managers today are just given a lineup card and told what to do?
No, I actually don't think that happens very often. I think, and in fact, one of the reasons I think Bob lasted as long as he did in Oakland, because Billy backed off from doing that type of thing. say what you want about Billy, but he is a really smart man, and smart people learn from their mistakes. And I think he knew he was, look, if we're going to be successful, I got to lay off, especially with a guy like Bob Melvin. And look at the way Bob ran the team and the young guys. You mentioned his patience. Yeah, he was phenomenally patient, but more than anything, he had like an empathy that really resonated with his players. Like if he was, I mean, the A's were doing the whole, reliever starting the game a couple times, and their lineups were kind of wacky. And the thought was, well, okay, this is Billy's doing this. Billy's forcing Bob to do that. I don't think that was the case. I think at least from year 3 until the end with Bob, I think he's the lone manager under Billy's, regime that actually called his own shots. I think he illustrated to Billy that he understood what they were doing. He understood analytics. He was open to suggestions, but I don't think he was ever forced to do anything, and that's part of the reason he lasted so long.
Man, I'm just looking back now on that 2006 season, and what am I don't know why I have this memory. I was 13 years old when this happened in that season, but I remember Ken Maka having to restrain Milton Bradley when he was going after a home plate umpire, and he gave him like the bear hug. I remember Ken Maka would get a lot of crap. Like, a lot of A's fans would talk mess about him, or maybe that was just, the people I was the dads that in the little league that I was rolling with, maybe it was just them. But like Ken Maka would, bear hugged Milton Bradley when Bradley was going off. I'm just looking back on that now. September 22nd, 2006 is when that happened.
Are you looking at the video? Is the video out there somewhere?
No, I'm just looking at a photo right now.
Dude, we got to find a video of it because it's the single most moment that's like seared into my brain from covering that team for 10 years. First off, Milton is mental health is big these days. I don't mean to make light of this. I've got some of those issues myself, but I think Milton was, anybody who knew Milton at the time and knew anything about mental health knew that he was, back in the day, it was called manic depression. Now it's bipolar. And you could walk in every day. I'd walk into the clubhouse. All you needed to do is look at Milton, and you knew which Milton you were going to deal with today. If it was good Milton, he was so smart and so insightful and so nice and so funny. This dude was the kind of guy that you love to hang out with. And like I'd interview him for a half an hour for a long-term piece, and we're vibing. And he gives me the bro hug at the end, and I'm walking out going, oh, my God, I just got, I take pride in, I just call them getting guys, and you have to do that if you're working a clubhouse. You got to get guys in your favor, guys that are in your corner, guys that understand that you're trustworthy and all that. I walked out going, oh, my God, I got Milton Bradley. I thought that would be impossible. The next day, I walk up to him, and it was like, he didn't know me. He basically told me, F off. And I walked out going, okay, so I don't have Milton Bradley, I guess.
Right.
And then the next day he comes up and like hugs me. What's up? And I'm like, okay, there's 2 Miltons. I have one Milton. I don't have the other Milton.
Wow.
Ken had both Miltons. Ken, when he did that, Ken was a big dude. People don't realize this. He was a big, strong guy. He was a major, he's a professional. I forget if he made the major leagues. I know he played in Japan. He was a hero in Japan. But anyway, a barrel-chested, catcher. And Milton was about to flip out, and Maka ran out. And not only did he bear hug him, he lifted him off the ground. It was like watching a cartoon. When somebody gets lifted off the ground, let me get my fingers into this somehow. They're like, here it is. Their feet are like dangling. And Milton was like, and then he turns while Ken's still holding him. And Ken told me this. Milton said, let me go and I'll never do it again. So Ken kind of took a couple steps towards the dugout with Milton Bradley in tow. And Milton whispers in his ear, I'm good. Let me go. It won't happen again. and that's when Ken, dropped him, for lack of a better word. But I will never forget the feet dangling as Ken's lifting him up. And I don't think Milton will ever forget that either.
Oh, man. Now, you were talking about that you had Milton Bradley. 3 guys that you definitely had were the big 3. You wrote your book on it. Mark Mulder, Tim Hudson, and Barry Zito when you covered the A's back in the early 2000s. Talk a little bit about your relationship with those guys. Are you still close with them today? And just what was it like covering those guys at the top of their power?
It was phenomenal covering them. I mean, 3 out of 5 days. They actually, for me, like they had guys like Corey Lytle, who was a stud when he was with the A's. It seemed like they always had. I mean, you knew when Hudson Mulder Zito went out there. I mean, imagine they were all in their prime at the same time. Part of the reason I wrote the book, because they were all close to the same age, having the same success level, their backgrounds or their draft status. They were all pretty high draftees. But they were so different in not just their pitching styles, but in their personalities. And that's what drew me to them. That's what I wanted to highlight in the book. I wanted it to be a book about pitching. The publisher, as you can tell by the cover, it's green and gold. And I thought there was too much A's on it, but you don't have that choice of an author. Any aspiring author that's listening to this, don't think your book title is ever going to survive, and don't think you're going to have any say in the cover. Because my working title was 3 of a kind, and then parentheses, sort of. And the cover I had was going to be 3 ace cards, right? And in the middle of the cards, the guy's faces. I mean, does that sound dope, right?
That's a great cover.
That's great.
But it got banged and whatever, they're the ones spending all the money. But yeah, knowing when you go into a series, you knew that all 3 of the guys were pitching. I remember there were a couple of times MLB.com didn't give us many days off, but I had been grinding for a while, and my boss called and said, "Hey, you can take tonight off." And I'm like, "No." And he said, "Why?" And I said, "Because Tim Hudson's pitching, and I don't want to not be there." I mean, it was just because he was pitching. And I would have said the same thing if it was Mulder or if it was Zito. It was 3 dudes who were on, legit Hall of Fame trajectories when they were early with the A's. The great disappointment is those 3 never got to the next round. But Stephen, as you mentioned, that 2016, was a lot of fun and they were really good. That wasn't the best A's team, which is crazy. That's the one that made it the farthest. But my God, the 2000 team, the 2001, 2002, when you have like Giambi and Miggy winning back-to-back, it wasn't just about, the big 3. They were fantastic. They're fun to watch. But you got Jason Giambi, Jermaine Dye, just stars everywhere. Johnny Damon, everyone, came in for a year or 2, and it was awesome. And A's fans, they didn't pack the house, but as you hear all the time, they're small but super loyal. And I remember some nights when there was like 15,000 people at the Coliseum, and it sounded like there's 35. They got that place rocking, and they rocked for the big 3. That's why I wrote the book.
And if you're looking for that book, it's called Aces, the last season on the mound with the Oakland A's Big 3, Tim Hudson, Mark Mulder, and Barry Zito. It is available on Amazon.com, as I just searched it up.
Longest title in the world. Read it again. Read the title again.
Aces, the last season on the mound with the Oakland A's Big 3, Tim Hudson, Mark Mulder, and Barry Zito. There are 2 colons in that one.
And you wanted to call it what, Herbs?
3 of a kind, and in parentheses, sort of. Yeah.
That's better.
I highlighted in the book, that they're not similar in terms of where they came from in the country,
right,
how they were raised, all of that. But again, they were all in a very similar space there. But yeah, that book title, you could have stopped at Oakland's Big 3, right?
Yeah, you could have.
You didn't need to throw 6 more words in there. Everybody knew who Oakland's Big 3 was at the time. But anyway, that's
But
sorry.
What?
I was going to follow up by saying, how'd you get so close to those guys? Herbs,
there you go.
if you're still there. Herbs.
You got us.
You just glitched in a huge way. Can I hear that again?
We are back.
So you talked about covering the big three, but how did you get? I mean, like I remember doing Inside the Bigs, and those guys came on all the time. And I want to say they're still close with you. How did you get so close with the big three?
It started with Eric Hillius. I don't know if you guys remember him. He was like a number 5 starter in 2001. Big dude, super cool guy. He basically became my running partner, and he was the first person in my career, and this was I owe a big chunk of my career to Eric Hillius, because he basically, we were vibing in an interview, cracking each other up, and he says, "Hey, you want to go out tonight?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude, you might take some shit from your teammates being out with a reporter." And he said something that I've repeated a number of times, and he goes, "Bro, if we were both plumbers working in the same space, we could go hang out together, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know shit about plumbing, but where are you going with this?" and he says, "I like you. You obviously like me. We're friends. We work in the same environment. Screw the unwritten rules," because I had been schooled in the unwritten rules. Don't become friends with your subjects.
Yes.
That night, Eric and I went out, and he changed my perspective completely on that. And he's like, "Bro, guys in the clubhouse are dying for a reporter they can trust, dying for somebody that doesn't want something from them every time they approach." From that point forward, I made a point of not just me doing it, but I would, teach my interns to do it. Half of your time walking up to players at the clubhouse needs to be done with no recorder in hand, no notebook in hand, and all you're doing is going to have a conversation. And before you do that, check the media guide, read everything you can about them, try to relate to them as people. Like, Mark Ellis was from one of the Dakotas, and he had never really been in a big time environment like that. He went to Florida, that's big time, but baseball's not huge. But when he got to Oakland, he was one of the guys. Eric Hillius said, "Mark Ellis, he's open to it. He'll be your friend." And that's kind of funny to me. So I went and started talking to Mark, and he's a great guy. And yeah, he became a friend of mine. But Eric got sent down to the minors maybe a couple of weeks after that. He was up and down from the minors, his whole career. And the A's were just about to go on a road trip. And I knew that Eric was really good friends with Zito. And so Eric's gone. And the first night of the road trip after the game, I'm in the clubhouse. I think it was Detroit. And Zito comes up to me and says, "Hey, bro, Hilly says you're a hell of a wingman and I should hang out with you now that he's not here. I need a new baseball best friend. You want to try out?" Try out? Okay, sure. We went out and had what we called a Scotch night. I don't know if you guys have ever done that, but Scotch is a different.
Oh yeah,
it's a different
type
animal. Of alcohol. Oh my God! And somehow the night ended up, and I don't have the picture, but it was back at my apartment, my hotel, which was closer to where we had ended the night than where the players were staying. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night to take a leak in my hotel. And Zito's asleep in my bathtub. It was fucking awesome, dude. And that was like, as strange as it sounds, that was what unlocked a whole lot of things for me. Not the vision of Zito in the bathtub fully clothed, but that Zito, he gave me credibility in the clubhouse, because I know that when we first started hanging out, he heard from teammates a lot. Like, for that,
Herb, you still there?
Zito's like, "No, yeah, you got me."
No, yeah, we got you. Sorry.
Got me, Joe?
And by the way,
Okay.
You didn't offend Steven or anything. He just had some technical difficulties, but he'll be back on the stream here.
Okay, yeah. I noticed that he was gone. Come on,
There
Steven.
he is.
There he is. Hi.
Unbelievable.
Continue your story here. Sorry about that.
So that led to Barry was really good friends with Eric Burns.
Burnsy.
Yeah, he's awesome. And I got Eric pretty quickly. I mean, he's an easy get. He's a cool guy.
Yeah.
Next was Huddy, because Barry was really good friends with Tim. And I think Tim was a little bit reluctant at first when Barry said, "Hey, I'm going out with Herbs. You want to hang out?" In fact, I know he was reluctant. And Barry kind of said, "Dude, give him a chance. You know, he's a good guy." And that's all you need, really, is to get a chance. And if you don't burn anybody, they will respect you, and you'll be able to get them. I remember Marco Scudero made 4 errors in one game. And you can either write that Marco Scudero made 4 errors in a game, or you could write that Marco Scudero did his best Edward Scissorhands impression in the game. I didn't do that. I thought it. I definitely thought it. But I'm like, I think saying he made 4 errors is bad enough. You know, everybody gets it that he sucked that day. And Marco came up to me the next day. We had never really had a great conversation. His English back at the time was still a little bit broken. And he walked up and instantly gave me the bro hug, you know. I'm like, what's that about? And he goes, I appreciate you being kind in your article. And I went and looked in the clips, and pretty much everybody threw their version of Edward Scissorhands into the copy. And all I said was Marco Scudero made a franchise, you know, unfortunate franchise record-breaking 4 errors. Just tell people the facts. If somebody sucked, they'll know. And I took a lot of criticism. People thought I was easy on Barry, which is ridiculous, because Barry had, you know, Barry remains one of my best friends. He might be my best friend. We talk 4 or 5 times a week. You know, we've gotten closer since we both kind of left baseball.
Yeah.
And it's just about just be kind, you know. And I know sports writers might think that, but these guys just want somebody who understands that what they do is really, really hard. And I think the fact that I played D1 baseball, and I made sure to let these guys know, you know, and it was totally self-serving. I wanted them to know that I had played at a fairly high level. I know how hard it is. And I think they respect that. And I think my size was another thing. You know, a lot of people in clubhouses are pretty small. So I'd always stand at the back when you're doing the semicircle around the athlete after the game. And I remember after about three weeks on the job, one of the other beat writers came up to me and said, "Did you notice that every player is looking at you the whole time to answer a question from the group?" And I'm like, "Dude, it's just because I'm tall and I'm behind you guys. And there's a clock over my head." I mean, literally, there's always like a clock over my head. And I said, they're just checking the time. But it became apparent pretty quickly that I was going to do this job differently. I'd never done this job before. And I found a way that I thought worked. And it did. But, you know, I mean, Susan Slusser is a good friend of mine now.
The best.
But at the time, she hated me. She hated the way I did my business. It was because she had never had to compete before. Nobody else. If a story broke on the Oakland A's for a good long time, it was broken by Susan Slusser.
Mm-hmm.
And then here I come, and all of a sudden I start breaking stuff. And it basically became a 50-50 thing. Susan had the club, had the front office wired. And she knew Billy. Billy knew how to work her. She knew how to work Billy. So if there was a scoop that came out of the front office, it was Susan's. More often than not, if it came out of the clubhouse, it was mine. And it was because, you know, I did my job differently. And I went out with these guys and I befriended them and treated them like normal human beings. And which reminds me of another Mark Redmond story that you guys will love. We're in New York City. Huddy rents a limo because he had pitched that day and pitched well, and they beat the Yankees. He rents a limo, and we're just going to go out on the town in Manhattan. And he invites me. So I'm in the limo with pretty much the whole rest of the pitching staff and maybe a couple other guys. And we're vibing, we're drinking. And you can kind of feel when somebody's like on you, right? Staring at you and mean mugging you. And I'm like, Mark Redmond's mean mugging me, man. What's up? We go to this club, we get the VIP. We're in a huge, what do you call them? Bankheads, right?
Mm.
You know what I'm talking about? Jay-Z.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're in a huge bankhead. And I'm sitting next to Huddy's on my right, Zito's on my left. Mark Redmond is across the table from me. And he's still just mean mugging me the whole time. And finally, Huddy goes, Mark, what's up, dude? You want to fight Herb? And he goes, no, I'm just wondering why the fuck you guys trust him. He could bury all of us tomorrow. And Huddy just smiled and shook his head and he said, I got so much more shit on Herb than he has on me. We're good to go. And he was right, man. I was a mess back then. But my philosophy was if it didn't affect, if it happened off the field and it doesn't affect what's on the field, I'm not writing about it. If a guy gets a DUI and has to miss a game or whatever, yeah, I'll write about that. But if I just walk into an after hours underground club in Seattle and see Terrence Long smoking a blunt before he hands it to a reporter on the beat, I have no problem with that, dude. T Long. I got good with T Long because something similar to that did happen. And he waited 2 days. He thought for sure I was going to bury him, right? He was near the league. He'd come from the Mets organization where the media is crazy. So I think that whole night he was like, oh my God, the reporter dude saw me. I was always, at the time, I was mostly close to pitchers. I hadn't got many of the position players yet. Terrence is reading the clips for a couple of days thinking that like I'm going to bust him or out him or something. And of course I never did. And so the last day of that, oh man, I probably shouldn't say this. So your audience is going to be going, say it.
What audience? Go ahead. It's just us three. Go say it.
The last night of that trip to Seattle, the underground, it was a cool bar at night, but at 2:00 they shut down. All the players stay and we go downstairs to this lair. And it had been a couple of days since I saw T Long doing what he was doing. And I think he'd spoken to a couple of the players. They're like, you don't need to worry about her. I walk down and the first person I see is Terrence. And I'm like, dude, you got any weed? And this is why it's funny. He reaches into his front pocket. It's not in a baggie. It's not in tinfoil. It's just a bunch of bud in his pocket, right? So he gives me some and stuffs the rest of it back in his pocket. And from that day on, like T Long and I were the best, man. I love that guy. He's
nice.
A really cool dude. He was the first position player that I really got. And we started talking, played pool and all that stuff. He invited me out one night. Jermaine Dye was with him. He helped me get Jermaine. The guys that I got were mostly because other players referred me. I don't know if that sounds weird, but it was a different way of doing the job for sure. And it rubbed some of my colleagues the wrong way, but they don't pay my bills. They don't sign my checks. I'm going to do what works for me. And that worked all the way up to now. When I was doing some stuff for The Athletic, I got Matt Chapman. He was easy to get because he's young and he's in the big leagues and I know how to do it. But I'm still doing that approach when I cover sports now. People want to be treated. Athletes want to be treated not like okay, what do you need from me this time? Well, how are you going to criticize me this time? Anything that's remotely positive in a clubhouse that's on the side of things that they are taught to consider negative, which is the media, they're starved for that. And I found once I transitioned over to CSN and started covering the Giants clubhouse, which is way different, very, very different than the A's clubhouse, or at least initially. But eventually it loosened up and Zito was on the team. So Matt Cain, I got very quickly, and Matt Cain helped me get Madison Bumgarner. And it's like, I am going to write a book someday about my career and expand on all this stuff. But like I said, I was really blessed to cover a ton of great guys, man. I mean, that Giants team, I don't know if you remember in spring training, at the end of spring training, 2010, I predicted on the air that they were going to win the World Series. And that was crazy. It was a stretch. But I had never seen a clubhouse. I just got back from spring training. Never saw a clubhouse get that tight, that quick. Even in Oakland. Oakland was a phenomenal clubhouse. I mean, Jason Kendall and Mark Kotze, they were incredible to cover. I get to San Francisco. I had done some things in San Francisco when Bonds was there, and the clubhouse sucked, and it was old, and you had to tiptoe around. But by the time I got there, they were back to being kind of a young team and having a blast. And it was a reach. I mean, that they won the World Series, what are the odds? It made me look good.
Yeah.
But I did believe that. I felt that when I said it, because it was not about the talent they had on the field. Every Major League Baseball team has a lot of talent. Not every team has 25 guys who dig each other and they show up to work happily and they'll stay late after work. You don't see that in business. You don't see that in any real industry. I mean, in what the three of us do or trying to do. Yeah, you make friends in the industry, but for the most part, there's not a ton of, just hanging out. And there's value in that. I think that, when I left media and started working I was an administrator in a nursing home, I had a staff of like 125. And I had been an employee for about 15 years at that point and had, witnessed the type of things that I saw transpire in the clubhouse and relationships. And any business is about building relationships and trust. And I kind of applied that model to my job in the nursing home and also, with my staff, saying, just encouraging them to find out about the person that you're caring for. Just let them know that they're not just a number or a face or a stat line. And I still think to this day that will resonate with players. Anybody who's getting started in this business, first off, why are you doing it right now? Stop it. Go to plan B. But if you're going to be insistent, then I hope that at some point that's the way that becomes more of a regular thing, because it used to be back in the day, like way back in the day when, I don't know if you guys remember Ron Bergman. He covered the Dynasty A's in the 70s.
Okay.
He passed away a few years ago. But when he came up, you were on the team plane. You were on the team train, if that was the case. You were in the team hotel. You were in the bar when the players were in the bar. And back then it was like, we're in this together, which is why you never heard about Mickey Mantle being an absolute stone cold alcoholic until he was done playing and broken down. That dude walked into that clubhouse a million times, just destroyed. And everybody knew it, but nobody wrote about it because we're all in this together. With the proliferation of media outlets over the years, it became more of a us against you. You no longer fly with your team. You no longer, you can get a room in the team hotel, but their team hotels are always 5-star. And if you're a reporter, chances are your company's not going to let you pay for it. I still managed to finagle my way into the Seattle Ritz, though. That was a great hotel. I lost my train of thought, but it's just like I said. I hope that that's the way people do business going forward, and it's not just reporting. It's just in life, man.
It's got to be so different now with social media too. Like the fact that we have such a portal to these guys' lives. Like they're more than just athletes. It's almost more in a weird way. Social media has almost humanized these guys a little more as opposed to what it used to be, which is, kind of, they were almost gods in a way, at least when I was a kid.
Right. No, I agree. And I think, look, like I remembered what I was talking about, Mickey Mantle and all that. Jason Giambi, a few other guys, they were known to come into the clubhouse the day after, and it was clear they were not quite fit to play. And one time Jason came up to me and said, dude, I'm wrecked, man. How do I keep this from blank? A certain reporter.
Right.
And I'm like, I got you, man. We're good. And, Jason is the biggest get at the time. You can't get bigger with the A's than Jason Giambi was.
Nope.
And that was one of the reasons I got Jason, because he knew that I knew he wasn't fit to play, but he knew I didn't write about it.
Yeah.
And I tried to, I think in my own little world, I was back in the day, and I had, before Ron passed away, a lot of veteran reporters, they have, I appreciate it so much when they came up to me and said, don't worry about what the younger colleagues are doing. You're doing it right. That will pay off. Bill King said that to me one day in an elevator. And I thought, okay, well, if these old heads are okay with it, then let's go with it. And the older I get, thinking back to how could you do that job if the players don't trust you and they don't like you? You're never going to get a good interview. I mean, why are you even there? You should be fired. I mean that. If I'm ever running a sports department and my reporter can't get the top 3 guys on that team for one-on-one interviews, or say I'm a program director at a radio station and I've got somebody who has covered this team. If you can't get those guys on the air, you suck. You're gone. I don't know if it's ever going to change to that landscape, but it has changed a little bit, and I'm hopeful for that. And I'm hopeful for it because, as you said, Stephen, social media has humanized these guys.
Yeah.
Reporters could humanize these guys even more so.
Yeah.
Because social media a lot of time is, it's run by the players themselves. And a lot of times they're not all that savvy, which is why you see a lot of deleted tweets. You know what I mean? But
there's one.
I think when I turn that off, I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Don't worry about it.
Go ahead.
I lost my train of thought again. Jeez.
No, you're all good, man. You're going full Sean Estes on us today with the long responses.
Oh my God. I was just thinking that. I was literally thinking that after my last answer. I'm like, oh my God. They should have put the Estes timer on me. That's great stuff, man. That's inside the bigs. That's inside the big stuff.
Oh,
right
yeah.
There.
We used to have a timer for how long Sean Estes was giving a response to an answer.
If you had Sean, and I love Sean to this day.
Great guy. Great
dude. And part of the reason he's so great is because he doesn't just throw his credentials on the desk and say, I'm here. He wants to actually be a broadcaster and wants to learn from it. But yeah, I remember, I think you were producing, Derek, and it was the first time I said to him on the air, dude, we're going to start putting a clock on here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the next time he came on, it was the next week. And before he answered the first question, he goes, all right, start your clock. One of the reasons I loved him. And I think we had him for 15 minutes and I asked 2 questions.
Well, it was not only that, it was his responses took a long time. If you know Sean Estes, great guy. He's deathly afraid of elevators. And he had a bad experience back in the day. And every time he would come in studio, he wanted to do the show in person with you if he was doing Giants pre and post over at NBC. So he would come over, ride his bike, and he wouldn't want to take the elevator up, so he would ask, "Hey, can your producer Derek come meet me and go up the stairs with me?" And it was always like, Sean Estes is a built dude in great shape, and I'm working in radio, just eating crap all the time.
You're
so
not.
we're just yeah, exactly. Thank you, Steven. So we're walking up the stairs together, and he's just like, having a full conversation with me, and I'm just like huffing and puffing. And he's like, "You don't do this all the time. You should take the stairs every day." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't have time to do that, Sean." But
we were on like the 12th floor or something. Right?
We were at the very top. Yeah.
Yeah.
You remember when they had to shut the elevators down for like a couple of weeks, and we had to take the stairs?
I do remember that as well.
It was the worst.
God, I had to like get there an hour before I had planned to get there just to get up those stairs.
Yeah, I know. Herbs, you talked about, kind of ruffling some feathers with the other reporters back in the day covering the A's. And there were some reporters that respected you, some that, didn't like the fact that you were getting so close to the players. But I'm reading this guy's book right now. Actually, it's not his book, but it's a guy that wrote about him. And you know him from back in the day covering baseball. He said that it was always important to get close to the players so you really get to know them so you can write about them and their life. And that guy is Pedro Gomez, unfortunately passed away earlier this year. But I just want to talk about, your experience with Pedro Gomez and, just covering baseball with the guy.
Dude, you just gave me goosebumps because Pedro was one of the first old heads to come up to me and say, "Keep doing what you're doing." I hadn't read what you just read, Derek, but that makes all the sense in the world. I mean, Pedro could get anybody. And he started out as a writer, like most people that end up on radio and TV do. And he was kind of like, before I started covering big time sports, I was familiar with Pedro Gomez, and I was always struck by. I mean, I didn't know that he had gotten that guy to come on camera. All I saw was what was on camera, and what I saw on camera was a chemistry that you rarely see between media and athletes because it is so us against them. It's gotcha. Pedro didn't play that. It's funny you're saying the reason I got the goosebumps is I'm thinking, damn, Pedro might be one of the big reasons I was the way I was inadvertently because I always respected him. And I watched a lot of interviews, as I was coming up. I wanted to learn about everything in the business, who makes a good interview, who asks a good question. Pedro always did. And the players always respected him, and they always gave him time, and they always gave him great answers. And I think that had a huge impact on me. And so subconsciously, like I said, I'm glad you pointed that out, Deke. I do owe, Pedro for that. I think he was a big part of it, man. He's just a great guy to everyone, not just players, because that's a little bit self-serving, right? But with other media members, which is not self-serving in any way, it's competition. But every person in every camp that he went to go cover liked Pedro. He was just a super likable guy, but at the same time, not so likable that like, okay, he's cool with the players. He doesn't have any credibility. No, it gave him more credibility. He was just awesome. He was huge loss.
And he was one of those guys where, I'd seen him on TV, and then when I actually got involved in the business, you hear stories about him and, just hear that everything you think about him is true, which is really nothing but good things. And
changed my diapers.
Wow, really?
No, I'm kidding. But he did babysit me, and he was just
It wouldn't be surprising. It feels like there's been a lot of just sports media people randomly who have changed their diapers previously before.
Yeah, I mean Jim Barnett, but we won't go down that road. But yeah, Pedro Gomez.
Can I top you? I'm going to top all of you, right?
Yeah. Go for it.
One of my greatest childhood memories is playing Nerf basketball in my bedroom with Bill Cartwright.
Wow. Deep voice, Bill Cartwright?
Dude, Bill was at USF. My dad played at USF as well. And my dad taught night school at USF when he was done. And when the Dons were they were top 5 for a few years, right? I mean, they were really, really good. And we had those players. My dad taught a lot of those players because athletes would get, okay, here's a former athlete who's a teacher who gets it. supports the program. I'm not saying my dad let people skate. That's not in his character. But all the players took his classes. And so he got to know the players. And I was babysat by Bill Cartwright a couple of times.
That's awesome.
And playing Nerf basketball with him, I mean, it was so cool. To grow up with USF basketball was cool. I mean, we were there all the time. And fast forward from, I think Bill left. He got drafted by the Knicks in '79. I think he was a first rounder.
Correct.
People remember him as a Bull and being just okay, fit the program there really well. But he was an all-star. I think he was rookie of the year. He was really, really good. At one point in time, they had Ewing and Bill Cartwright. Obviously, you don't need two frontline centers, and Ewing was better than Bill, but Bill had a great run, in Chicago. But fast forward to 2000, the Olympics. I'm on site in Salt Lake City, where the Jazz play was going to be the venue for the ice skating. And so the Jazz had to go on like a three-week roadie. But before they did, they played the Bulls. And I was in town, NBC, which, if you were with NBC at the Olympics, dude, you could get away with anything. As long as you had this badge that had the peacock, you could get into anywhere. You could get into ski resorts and get free lift tickets as long as you had the NBC peacock, right? Mm-hmm. So, I'm relatively young and I'm a mess. And so I'm power of the cock. But I used the power of the cock to get into the Salt Palace a couple of hours early, right? And so everybody is on the floor. I'm about 5 rows from the floor, and I hear in that inimitable voice, "Is that Mikey Gordon Urban?" And it's Bill. And he waves me over, and it's like, first up, he always called me Mikey Gordon, right? Play on my first name. My middle name is Gordon, which to me speaks to what a different dude he is, and that he remembered me. My God, he hadn't seen me in like 10 years, which would, I guess, equate to, for me, like 50 pounds, 60 pounds. I was not the guy that he was used to seeing, certainly not the kid, but he recognized me instantly, called me over, we chopped it up, and he was the one that reminded me. Remember when I was a rookie in New York and you guys came out to play? He got us front row seats at the Garden, back when the Garden was popping, man.
Oh, yeah.
And Bill had a really good game. Definitely my second favorite in-person basketball moment. The first one, you know what? Ask me what the first one is, so I'm not Sean Estes.
What's the first one?
First one was the Tournament of the Americas. The 1992 Dream Team had to play in a qualifying tournament. They had to qualify for the Olympics. The qualifying tournament was the Tournament of the Americas in Portland, smallest NBA arena at the time, right?
Yeah.
Me and my backup center at Kenyatta College, we wanted to go. You had to enter like a lottery to get tickets. We won. We bought tickets to all 7 games. We had a friend up there. We got decent hotel room. But more than that, we got to watch the Dream Team 7 times, a couple of times from the first row. It was like nobody knew this was going on. I thought it was going to be a madhouse. And it only had, like, for most games, there was maybe 8,000 people. I'm like, Jordan, Magic, and Bird, why is this place that, I don't know if you remember the name Oscar Schmidt. He was Brazil's Michael Jordan. And I was really eager to watch him play. U.S. played Brazil. Oscar went for 40, man. He lit the Dream Team up. But the Dream Team killed everybody. And I was just a huge, huge Larry Bird fan. Had only seen him play once. He didn't play a lot in the tournament because of his back issues. But man, watching from that close, that team, and then one of the nights we got to hang out with him. We told Barkley that we played for Canada, and he bought it. So I mean, my buddy's 6'9", I'm 6'7". He bought it, and he's like, "Let me buy you guys a beer." And we partied with Chuck that whole night. I mean, just fantastic dude. He must have had 20 Budweisers. I mean, the dude shrank like a fish. At one time, we're at the bar. He's on my right, and I'm turned talking to him. And he says, "Michael, keep looking at me. Do you trust me?" I'm like, "I just met you." So far, so good.
Yeah.
He goes, "Okay, this is where I'm going to earn your trust. Keep looking at me. I want you to put your left hand out as far as it can go without looking," right? He's on this side. He's telling me to do this. Just before I get full extension, I kind of think, this is Charles Barkley, man. He's about to get me beat up. And I stop and I look, and I'm this far away from palming the back of Jordan's head. Who's going to have me palm Jordan's head?
Did
Can
you?
imagine what ass kicking I would have taken? And when I pulled my hand back, it was like, it was so close. Jordan felt the wind. And he like turns and he goes, looks right through me and goes, "What's up, Chuck?" And Chuck goes, "Nothing." And so Jordan leaves like shortly after that. And he came back 15 minutes later. I don't know what he did for 15 minutes. He left with a woman. Do the math. But when he came back, almost the whole team came back. And so, you know, me and my buddy are just in heaven partying with the dream team. And I remember there's one girl I was on the dance floor with, and I'm thinking, I'm styling, man. I'm good tonight. I'm going to score. Next thing you know, I've got Charles Barkley literally boxing me out. I mean, that dude, people say he was 6'6". He was not 6'6". He was like 6'4" tops. But, I mean, he had the strongest legs, and I found out the biggest ass I had ever seen because he just moved me out of the way and danced with this girl. And like 20 minutes later, he grabs the back of my head, his other hand just holding on to the hand of the hot chick that he boxed me out of. And he said,
"Wow,
have a good night. I'll see you at the tournament." Next day, there, Charles and Mullen, Chris Mullen, who's a type A personality.
Yeah.
Mullen does not miss practice. He doesn't miss buses, nothing. But he was buddies with Charles, and Charles was a bad influence on him. So they missed the bus to practice. And so they're standing out there waiting for a cab. And I'm there, and my buddy Rob is there because we wanted to see the whole dream team. And the night before, Charles had told me about a Nike outlet store that had these cool, they were like hammer pants back when those were cool. And they were never cool. Let's face it.
Hammer pants?
They were cool on Barkley though, and it was cool that he told us where it was.
Yeah.
And so I went and I bought those pants. And of course, you know, I'm like a little kid, first day of school. I'm wearing the pants the next day. Charles walked out, and out of the corner of his eye, he sees me and he looks down. He says, "I see you found the outlet." And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Canada, my ass."
Talk about the round mound of rebound.
Oh my God, he's the best. He really was. I don't know if you guys have heard the story about him. He had a really super tight relationship with this like Asian toilet maker or something. It's like the guy, when the guy passed away, Charles Barkley shows up at the funeral, and the family's like, "Why is Charles here?" They didn't even know he had a relationship with him.
Yeah.
That's kind of how Chuck was. I think that's why he's so popular. He's very much the everyman that you kind of want your athletes to be, you know? I mean, Chuck was second, third best player in the world at the time, but completely approachable. I mean, he'll get in your ass and, you know, chop you up, but it wasn't malicious. It was just Chuck. He's just having a good time. And I was, I'm stoked that I got to experience that up close.
Yeah, very different than the guy that's on TNT. He was very close with my dad's brother, my uncle.
Oh, yeah?
Gary Papa, who used to cover Philadelphia sports.
Hmm.
And they were very close. They would hang out all the time. And there's the guy that you see on TV that says all this stuff and says ridiculous things. And then there's the guy that, every time he would come on with my pops to do an interview, just say, give my best to, the family, because Gary passed away, but just the nicest guy. And we lost Steven for some reason. I don't know where Steven went.
I think my intro was too long. You went to get a clock.
Yeah.
It's just your opinion, man. I can't believe it took me this long to make the Big Lebowski connection. Oh my God. I'm a dummy.
Real quick, Herbs. We just scratched the surface, man. Steven's back.
Sorry.
So we just scratched the surface, man. There's so much to talk to you about, and we're going to have you on again to talk more about it. But just real quick to close things up, one of your best segments all time on Inside the Bigs, we used to play it all the time, was Good for Ball, Bad for Ball. So I just want to give you some topics, and you let me know if it's good for ball or bad for ball. You ready?
I love it. Yeah, let's go. Let's get it.
Okay, here we go.
Yes.
Universal DH, good for ball or bad for ball?
Bad for ball. Come on. Look, the reason the World Series used to be so much more exciting is because there was a division, right?
Yeah.
They played baseball a different way than we played baseball. We never saw that league when we get to the World Series. They're strangers. The Dodgers didn't face Reggie Jackson before he hit 3 bombs in a game. They didn't see him that year.
Yeah.
Scouting wasn't advanced back then. It's super advanced now. It's all one league. It's becoming all one league. I think interleague has been a bad thing. I liked it when it first started, but I've grown to dislike it. I think there's maybe a place for it. It'd be hard to do, but if you could somehow limit it to just the real rivalries in baseball, Mets, Yankees, A's, Giants, White Sox, Cubs. I'm cool with that. But I remember Seattle got paired with Toronto or something like that. It's that's not a regional rivalry. Like I said, it'd be really tough to schedule, but definitely bad for ball. Universal DH. Don't want to see
it. Braves, Astros World Series. Good for ball, bad for ball?
Bad for ball. I love Dusty. I'm glad he's getting another shot, but what the Astros did a few years back really hurt the game. I know people make light of it, but that's brutal. And I don't think the Astros are ever going to be beloved anywhere other than Houston for the rest of time. And before that happened, they were a likable team, right? I mean, Altuve, they had a website. How many Altuves? To get from San Francisco to Stockton, how many Altuves, right?
Yeah.
To take his height. And they're a fun team. They were young. Correa was a stud. They were up and coming. And like I said, they're a likable team. And then this happened. And I have no doubt that a lot of them are guilty of it. And I don't think they will ever be respected again, no matter how good they are. And that's bad for ball in the World Series because, look, the whole country, as far as I know, wants Atlanta to win that series. They do not want the Astros to win it. And that stinks, man. That's your marquee event. And you've got this cloud that formed, what was it, 3-4 seasons ago?
Yeah.
And it's still there, and I don't think it's ever going to go away.
Analytics, good for ball or bad for ball? Oh, stumped you.
Yeah. I'm really torn on this. It's got its place. I don't think it should be the be-all, end-all. I don't think it's what should govern every decision. And the reason I'm torn is because, look, we have access to that information, and you're trying to win ball games. That's your job. If this information will help you excel at your job, then it's good for ball. But with analytics have come so many terms that I detest. Launch angle. They're telling us how fast the ball came off the bat. What are some other of the shitty cliches that this has spawned?
Steven, you know these.
Oh, Bob Bipp. I'm a big Bob Bipp guy. Batting down balls in play. Oh.
And like I said, there's a place for that. And I'm not hating on anybody that, is into that. But one of the reasons I like Dusty so much is because I know Dusty appreciates analytics, but he's not governed by them.
Right.
He will use them when he sees fit, but he's an old school baseball guy. And when he has a gut feeling, he's going to follow his gut. I just think there's too many managers that are managing by the book and, letting the stats dictate everything. And by the way, I absolutely hate the shift. I think the shift should be outlawed.
Really?
Basketball. How about you guys?
I don't know. It's strategy. Steven, what do you think?
I go back and forth on it, but really, I think ultimately, I think the game would be better off without the shift. At first, I was all about it because it's all strategy and whatnot, but really, it's just, I don't know. I really go back and forth with that also because it's at the same time, it's like, hey, hitters, how about you just learn to hit the opposite field and hit away from it? But
drag button, get a single, right? Drag it down the third base line.
Yeah. What at the same time, I'm also thinking like, well, why don't you just limit where these guys can go? Like, yeah, they can move maybe 10 feet this way. I don't know what they can do to ban it, but I don't know. I go back and forth on the shift.
Yeah, you're right. That would be a very difficult thing to police. Like, you can't move this far.
Yeah. Right.
Like, we're going to end up with, it'd be like a football game on Fox with imaginary lines, post and all that. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, part of me, when it first started happening, I remember they did it to JYOM quite a bit. He was one of the first guys to really get shifted on.
Yeah.
And he hated it. He called it bootleg baseball, and that always stuck in my mind. But after they were doing it for a couple of weeks, I said to him, why don't you just drop down and drag? Nobody's going to be able to get it. And he's like, I'm not paid to hit singles. I'm not paid to bunt. I'm paid to hit the ball out of the park, paid to hit the ball into the gaps. This makes it harder for me to do that. And he said, which makes it less fun for the fans. And that's kind of like, when somebody say Brandon Belt's at the plate and they do the shift and the second baseman is in shallow right field and Belt just smokes a ball. Great long, what is it? Is it launch speed? What is it?
Launch angle or exit velocity?
Exit velocity.
Yeah.
Great exit velocity, right?
Oh, yeah.
The kind of knock that just, makes you feel good.
Yeah.
Maybe it's only a single, but man, you crushed that ball. Second baseman's there and just canned a corner and caught it.
Yeah.
And you saw Brandon Belt. I mean, he never really has the greatest body language anyway, but it was so deflating to him. And I thought, that's going to be in his head the next time up, and it's not real baseball. So, I don't like it. But again, they have information that says this is going to help us win. And it's $1 billion business. So they're doing what's going to help them win. I get it. I just don't like it.
Okay. I want you to answer this because you're the only guy that, in my opinion, everyone tries to copy a Bruce Bochy impression, but I think you by far had the best one. I want you to answer this in your best Bruce Bochy voice. Good for ball or bad for ball, Bruce Bochy managing once again in the major leagues?
Now remember, it's Bruce Slingblade, not Bruce Bochy.
That's right.
I throw a little bit of Billy Bob Thornton in there, Slingblade.
French fried potatoes.
Exactly. But yeah, Boch would say, retirement doesn't suit me real well. We all know it. I got to get me back in that dugout. Bob Melvin took the job I wanted. I started in San Diego, wanted to be in San Diego. So maybe I'll just have him killed.
That's pretty good, man.
That?
Oh, that's great.
That's pretty good.
Can I get a Gruden, Steven, after he got?
I've retired it. I've retired it, Herbs. I'm no longer doing that impression. That guy doesn't deserve an impression.
Do you want to get canceled, Herbs?
I thought my Bochy was retired, and I just pulled it out of mothballs for you.
Yeah, but Bochy isn't accused of the shit that Gruden's been doing.
Yeah, man, that's
a bad one. All right, real quick here to end. Yeah, last good for ball, bad for ball, and this is obvious answer here, but good for ball, bad for ball. The A's staying in Oakland.
Great for ball.
Of course. But tell us why.
I mean, Oakland deserves that, man. Oakland sports fans, it's been a rough several years for them, man. They were the best fans in the NBA, and their NBA team left, once they got good. The Raiders, for whatever reason, people have liked the Raiders for a long time. I don't quite get that, but they leave. If the A's left too, I mean,
yeah,
I think that'd be horrible. I think Oakland sports fans are among the best fans in the country, and that's why I'd really like to see the A's win a World Series sometime soon, because those fans deserve it.
Yeah,
absolutely. Herbs, thank you so much, man. We will definitely have you on again, because there's so much more I want to talk to you about, but you had to ramble on with your Sean Estes answers, so I'm just messing with you. But thanks again, man, for stopping by. We'll definitely have you on again, and we'll talk more about, our Inside the Bigs back in the day and all the stuff we couldn't get to today.
Yeah, hey, thanks you guys for having me. You guys work really well together. I appreciate just getting asked, man. You guys both, I go way back with you. I have a ton of respect for you and the paths that you have taken, the way you have ascended up the ladder. I'm proud of both of you guys. I'm proud to call you colleagues and friends. Thanks for having me.
We're proud of you too, Herbs, man. Love you.
Thanks, bro.
Love you too, man. Take care.
All right, man. You too.
Wow.
Oh, man. That was awesome.
That was great. Except my computer kept on crapping out.
Yeah. What was the deal there?
I don't know. And it was really bugging me because it just randomly turned off. And I actually thought my computer was dead. Like I thought it ceased to exist. That's why I went on my phone. And then it went, yeah.
Yeah, I know. You're going like GoPro there for a second.
Yeah.
So, like close in your face, FaceTime-y. Didn't like it.
Yeah, it was gross. Sorry.
All right, Steven. Should we end this with our football picks?
As usual. I'm never going to eat hot sauce again. This was just F. Well, I'm going to if I lose, I guess.
All right. Oh no! Okay, hold on. You get one mulligan with the hot sauce thing. Go from here on out. You gotta do the wings.
If I'm eating one wing again, I'm not doing it.
Okay, so you got to lose by 2 or 3 to go to Wingstop again?
I'm sorry, but yes, exactly. But also, wasn't my reaction to this a lot better than my reaction to hot wings?
You got a point there.
So, like,
how do I get that sauce?
Go online. What? I mean, what? Heatiness.com. Go online there to heatiness.com and check out.
Yeah, you're plugging everything today. Your dirty dip and your hot sauce.
Make sure to go to dirtydip.com. Dirty Dip
also got a radio show from 5 to 6 every day.
Hey, 5 to 6 in the morning. I got to get viewers when I can. All right, can only do it so much through social media.
All right, Steven, let's do these picks, and hopefully we do as good as Elena did last week with us. All right, Here we go. Thursday night. Oh, boy. We didn't talk about this, man. Mike White, Ned Schneebly beat Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, and he gets another crack at it this Thursday against the Indianapolis Colts. Carson Wentz. Who you got, Steven?
Colts.
Yeah, I take the Colts as well. You don't believe Mike White?
Mike White was fantastic, but if the Bengals didn't get that stupid unnecessary roughness penalty called on them, then maybe that would have been a different outcome.
The head-to-head call at the end there.
Stupid, man. Why are you calling it in that spot?
Yeah, I know. It was a bad call. But props to Mike White. Great quarterback and also
great wide receiver, too.
What?
Great wide receiver, too.
Who was a Mike White that was a wide receiver?
Him. He caught one in the end zone.
I thought you were making a good reference like I was with Ned Schneebly. Yes, you're right. On the Philly special, the Jets special.
Yours is a little more niche than mine. Not a lot of people know that Mike White was Ned Schneebly. How many reactions?
Ned Schneebly.
How many reactions did you get on Twitter to that?
Nothing.
Any likes?
Just one. But I don't care.
Yeah, that shows how many people got your joke.
I don't give a shit as long as I laugh. That's all I care about. I believe it's pronounced Schneebly.
Schneebly.
All right. The Falcons. They are surprisingly not bad. They're below 500, but they're in there. I thought they'd be worse than what they are right now. But they're playing against the New Orleans Saints, who has lost Jameis Winston for the season. They're probably going to roll with Taysom Hill or Trevor Siemian. What do you got in this game, Steven? Falcons Saints.
I got the Falcons, but it looks like the Saints here are favored by 6, which is crazy to me. I think the Falcons are going to cover that one
and win the game.
I think they're going to win outright. But yeah, 6
point. I like the Saints defense a lot, and
they're good. They're very good.
They know how to play with Taysom Hill at quarterback. So I'm going to take the Saints. I'm surprised they didn't make a move for a QB today, but you know what my trade proposal would have been? And this is crazy, but I would have said Deshaun Watson, if you knew everything what was going to happen with him this season, if he's not going to be suspended and whatnot, you just had to play with him the rest of the season. Fan reaction be what it be. Trade him to the Saints and trade Michael Thomas to the Texans for a first-round pick and Michael Thomas.
That is wacko. That is wacko.
One of the brothers from the Animaniacs?
I've never watched the Animaniacs.
We'll save that for another day so I can chastise you for that. All right, here we go. I'm taking the Saints, though. Patriots at the Panthers. We all know how Sam Darnold plays against the Patriots, but does it matter?
It does. Going with the Patriots.
Yes, it does, Steven, because I'm taking the Patriots as well. Bills at the Jaguars. Bills as well.
Jaguars are 14.5-point underdogs right now. You taking that? You think they can cover that? You think they can lose by 2 touchdowns only, or will they lose by more than that?
They probably will lose by more than that.
Oof. Brutal.
Browns at the Bengals. Which team gets the better pick-me-up after a rough outing last week?
I think the Bengals do. Bengals at home, 2.5-point favorites. Yeah, I'm taking the Bengals there.
The Browns, I'm taking because they have more talent, and I do like the Bengals, but I think this is where they kind of have a slide down back to reality. I'm taking the Browns.
There's a chance of that for sure, and they got both their players back. And the reason the Browns really lost last week was because that Steelers defense has proven when they're healthy that they're actually really good still. So, you know what? Maybe I was jumped the gun on taking the Bengals, but hey, that's who I took, and I think the Bengals can win this one.
Yeah, we'll see when Kareem Hunt gets back, but I'm taking the Browns.
Dearness Johnson has just done just fine though in his place. I mean, good Lord, that running back platoon that they have there with Chubb and Hunt and Johnson, that's a good running back core, man.
Dare I say he's playing earnestly? Anyway,
Ernest goes to jail. Ernest goes to the end zone.
Not bad. Vikings at the Ravens. The Vikings lost to Cooper Rush.
I can't believe that. I'm gonna have to go with the Ravens, though. The Ravens had a bye this week, didn't they? Feel like they played. Yeah,
they did.
Go with the Ravens.
Taking the Ravens as well. We thought this was going to be Deshaun Watson's debut against his old team with his new team against the Dolphins, but of course that didn't happen today. Texans at the Dolphins, 2 teams that have lost 7 in a row. Who you got, Steven?
Ugh. Oh, this is a stinker. You're going to watch this one, aren't you? You're going to watch this one from start to finish.
Oh, yeah, it's football.
I'll take the Dolphins.
I'm taking the Dolphins as well. The Raiders go to New York to play the Giants. And the Raiders are coming off a bye. Probably will not have Henry Ruggs with them. But who you taking in this game, Steven?
I'm going to take the Raiders. The Giants are just that bad of a team, but my gosh.
Yeah, are they? They held in there against the Chiefs last night.
I think it's more of an indictment on the Chiefs.
You're probably right.
You see the way the Giants handled that fourth quarter, the 2-minute warning, letting the clock go all the way down. Like, what are you doing, Joe Judge? Apparently it's a problem with the headsets, whatever. You buy that, by the way? When head coaches playing the headsets? Because I do, but also it's no excuse for you don't need a headset to call a timeout in what seems like a moment where, hey, the clock is ticking down and they still have the ball. Maybe you should call it.
Yeah. Not a lot of great coaching going on from that team right now, but yeah, I say the Raiders, I think it's going to be a close game because I think the Giants defense is playing a lot better lately, but I take the Raiders to win.
Okay.
What else we got? Okay, this is one of the bigger games, kind of the bigger games, but it's a early game, last of the early games. Broncos at the Cowboys. First game without Von Miller.
Oh, Cowboys all the way.
Yeah, and Dak should be coming back. I'm taking the Cowboys as well.
Wow.
We go to the late games now. Chargers at the Eagles.
Oh, I'm taking the Chargers, even though looks like they've, I don't know, maybe had a regression to the mean, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Herbert threw that bad pick 6 against the Patriots last week and they lost, but he's still, despite how bad Justin Herbert could look sometimes throwing pick 6s and interceptions, he looks just as damn good, even losing in that game. I know the Chargers are going through a rough time right now. They lost 2 in a row to 2 good teams. You can say the Ravens and Patriots are good teams, better teams. But I think they get things going this week. I'm taking the Chargers to beat the Eagles.
Yeah, me too.
And then we got the 49ers at home against the Arizona Cardinals, against the best quarterback in the Niners history, Jimmy Garoppolo. Not against, but playing. Well, yeah, Cardinals against the 49ers. Screwed that joke up right there. Jimmy Garoppolo getting the start against potentially Kyler Murray, but I think he's going to play. Who you got, Steven?
I'm going to go with the 49ers because I just don't buy that Kyler Murray's going to play. I think he's going to be out. So I think
you
they're
think
going to have
so?
McCoy. Yeah. So if we're going to make our picks now, before we know who the quarterbacks are, I'll take the 49ers with this one.
Not only do I think Kyler Murray will play, I think he's going to play and lose. I think the 49ers beat the Arizona Cardinals straight up.
Interesting.
They held them in check last time offensively a little bit, 17-10. It was a close game. But I think that the Niners have a good week, and they go to 4-4, and we have a whole hell of a lot of controversy with Jimmy Garoppolo playing lights out for the 49ers, and the fans don't know what to do.
Good Lord.
Packers at the Chiefs. The first time Aaron Rodgers has ever played Patrick Mahomes. We thought this was going to be a huge marquee game when the season started. It still is, but the Chiefs are not the same team anymore. Who you got on this, Steven?
Packers. I'll go with the Packers. I'll take the Packers.
Well, if you look at a calendar, you'll see that the Packers have been off since last Thursday, and the Chiefs just played a game on Monday. I'm taking the Packers.
Okay.
We call that a long and short week, Steven. I know you're opposed to those things.
And it's actually a short week, though, or long week, rather than just a one day.
Here we go. Next one. Titans at the Rams. The Titans will be without Derrick Henry, but they are getting Adrian Peterson. Wow. And the Rams are getting Von Miller. Even more wow. Who's the more wow team, Steven?
The Los Angeles Wows. I'll take the Rams.
Wow. Yeah, I'm taking the Rams as well. And then on Monday night, we got the Bears at the Steelers.
I'll take the Steelers.
Taking the Steelers as well. So you and I
take the under on that game. The over-under is at 40. I'm taking the under on that one.
That might be a Manning cast game. Oh, you know what?
No, they got a bye week.
They got a bye week. Didn't watch it last night. Wanted to watch the game for once.
It was good. It was good. Josh Allen was really boring, but Jon Stewart was great because he's a fan and he was actually analyzing the game as opposed to like doing an interview, which was cool. True. He was like legitimately trying to watch it. I forgot. And then they had Michael Strahan in the second quarter, which was good, but that was more between like Eli and Strahan. Then Josh Allen was the same way. It was more between him and Eli. And then you had Michael Irvin on there at the end. Not Michael Irvin, but Michael Irvin in the fourth quarter. And when they were showing replays of Irvin at the U, they were showing him in a 3-point stance in the slot. Super weird.
Oh, yeah.
And Irvin was just laughing the entire time. He has one of those really infectious laughs that when he laughs, you laugh. And
he loves to laugh.
Yeah, it was hilarious last night.
I didn't feel like watching the Manning cast last night. And by the way, did some research. Not to prove you wrong, Steven, but the Manning cast does not do as well as the actual broadcast.
Interesting.
Only gets a little bit of the portion of what the actual broadcast gets.
I don't buy it.
America loves Steve Levy, whether you want to agree with that or not.
I mean, you're the one that craps on him anytime we talk about it.
Can't stand him, honestly. Can't stand him. All right, Steven. We've been on this podcast for a long time now, probably our longest episode yet. I say we end things. How about you?
Well, yeah. You remember the last one we had? I was like, hey, let's end it a little earlier than the last one. You're like, yeah, we'll do that, Steven. And then we just don't.
I don't talk like that. Don't give me that impression. Jesus. All right, Steven, we'll try to make this shorter next week. Thanks to everybody for watching, and thanks again to our special guest who is still watching us, Michael Urban. Thanks again, man. We'll have you on some other time so we can dive more into old times with us and talk about more fun times. But Steven, say what you always say, my friend.
That's just our opinion, man.
No question.